parts of England and Wales, but turning brighter across Northern Ireland to end Sunday afternoon. Otherwise, temperatures actually holding out at around average for the time of year. So as we go through Sunday evening, this band of rain will still continue to slowly move its way south and eastwards, holding on to the clearest skies across the southeast of England once again to give a cold start to Monday morning. We'll start to see outbreaks of rain, then sinking its way south and eastwards, but on Wednesday, higher pressure builds. Bye-bye for now.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Want to be one of 2 lucky Great British Giveaway winners? That's right, you could win one of 2 prize bundles, which includes a brand new iPhone 16, £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store, and an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. What would you spend that cash on? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
It's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's Saturday night, and this is the Saturday 5. I'm Darren Grimes, along with Willie Kingston, Dr. Renee, Alex Armstrong and Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show,
mental health benefits are bankrupting Britain.
The government are determined to secure the right to kill people.
Millionaire Miliband is a rank hypocrite.
Mayor Khan for himself, but can't for Londoners.
And Donald Trump's policies are a fascist nightmare.
He always has to ruin it, doesn't he? It's 6 p.m. and this, Saturday 5. Good evening and a very warm welcome to the Saturday 5. I'm Darren Grimes and I'm still firmly gripping the hot seat despite the increasingly desperate and naked attempts of Alex Armstrong to rescue me. I've actually had to hire my own security detail to keep him at bay, lest he launch an assassination attempt in the dead of the night, armed with nothing but an expired Labour Party membership and a deadly thirst for airtime. Now, viewers of GB News will have noticed that last night there was a mysterious disappearance. Patrick Christie's was gone. I haven't had an update on his whereabouts, but I can only assume that Armstrong's grubby little fingerprints were all over it, given that he presented his show last night. His hunger for a presenting gig on the People's Channel is so intense that I fear none of us here are safe. So if I suddenly slump over mid-show, someone check my drink for traces of the one-time socialist workers' sedative of chocolate. Lukewarm oat milk, that's what he'll poison me with. Thankfully, I've got my good friend, the glamorous GP, Dr. Renee, on standby with an EpiPen. Not only must she be prepared to fend off assassination attempts from former Labour Party members, acting like devious diva delinquents, but she's also on call to handle the disturbingly stiff and rigid Australian to her right. Now, speaking of which, Free Willy was my favourite film as a child. There was nothing more thrilling than seeing that orca burst free from its human-made prison. And our very own Willie Kingston is no different. One congratulatory pat too many, and he's primed to explode, my friends. The man's under so much pressure to perform that he's practically a shaken-up can of Foster's. One shake too many, and there's a real frothy freak show. Making a return is the one and only Kai Wilshaw, Cardiff's most self-described gender-fluid Blairite babe in the village. Kai has just informed us that while hitting the clubs of Soho, he suffered an unexpected crisis. YMCA came blasting over the speakers, and triggered by its appropriation by the MAGA movement, he hurled a speaker across the floor, screaming, "Justice for Kamala!" Now, in light of this, we've had to ban all Village People songs at GB News Towers to prevent another triggered tantrum. Now, as ever, each of our panel get there to make their arguments, and then it's game on. Expect things to escalate faster than the blood pressure of Ed Miliband's new vanity, looking like a normal human being. Here's his latest attempt. Now, for our radio listeners, all I can say is, I wish I was you right now. And, of course, we want to hear your views. Drop us a line at gbnews.com/your-say. And don't forget to get your questions in for Ask the Five. No topic, off limits, except, of course, all of your Willy-related messages. But before this descends into total chaos, or Dr. Renee has to administer some form of muscle relaxant to Will, it's time for your Saturday Night News with Sophia Wensler.
Darren, thank you. It's just gone 6 o'clock. These are your headlines. Donald Trump has said many ISIS terrorists are being killed in caves by US airstrikes he ordered this morning. Posting on his social media site, Truth Social, the US president said, "This morning I ordered precision military airstrikes on the senior ISIS attack planner and other terrorists he recruited and led in Somalia. These killers, who we found hiding in caves, threatened the United States and our allies." Meanwhile, Donald Trump is set to impose tariffs on US's top 3 trade partners today, with Mexico and Canada facing a 25% tax and Chinese imports hit with a 10% levy. The move is expected to raise prices and disrupt key sectors, including energy, automotive, lumber and agriculture. The White House insists the tariffs are aimed at tackling illegal fentanyl distribution and addressing migration concerns. In response, Canada, Mexico and China have all pledged retaliation. Meanwhile, Trump has warned the European Union could soon face similar measures. The mayor of Philadelphia has confirmed the driver of a car was also killed when a medical transport plane crashed in the city. All 6 on board were killed in the crash, including a young patient and her mother. At least 19 others were also injured after the jet rescue air ambulance erupted into a fireball just 30 seconds after takeoff, engulfing several homes in flames. An investigation is underway with officials from the National Transportation Safety Board on the scene. It comes just days after a plane collided with a US Army helicopter near Washington, D.C., killing 64 people on the plane and 3 on the helicopter. In other news, Hamas and Israel are exchanging hostages and prisoners today in the 4th swap of a fragile ceasefire in Gaza. In Tel Aviv, supporters clapped and threw their hands in the air as they watched the last of 3 hostages cross the border into Israel. Meanwhile, in exchange, 182 Palestinian prisoners are expected to be freed, with some already taken in buses to Gaza and the West Bank. The release comes as Gaza's Rafah crossing reopens for the first time, allowing injured Palestinians into Egypt. Now, back in the UK, 6 people have been arrested following Stop the Isolation and Stand Up to Racism rallies in central London. The Metropolitan Police said these include the incident where a flare was set off, an arrest near Waterloo after an officer was spat at, and 3 arrests in Whitehall after Stop the Isolation protesters entered the Stand Up to Racism area. Thousands of protesters have gathered in the capital with a march in support of Tommy Robinson and a separate counter-demonstration. Robinson is currently serving an 18-month prison sentence for breaching a High Court injunction. And angry crowds have gathered outside a Barclays branch as a major IT glitch is causing thousands to be left without their funds for more than 24 hours. Many have taken to social media to hit out at the firm and demand compensation for the problems, which leading experts have warned could cost the bank millions. This morning, the bank apologised to its customers, acknowledging intermittent errors with their payment system and assuring that they were working to fix this as quickly as possible. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Darren.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Cheers, Sophia. It's Saturday night, my friends, and you're with the Saturday 5. I'm Darren Grimes, and I can promise that you're in for a very lively show. 3 whole hours. What more could you want? Sit yourself down and bustle up, get ready. Because Grumpy Grandad has just messaged in, my friends, and he says, Willie is looking a bit flushed tonight. I hope he doesn't get overexcited. It might get messy.
I'm sitting next to him.
Well, yes, you've got quite.
At least you're wearing white.
And Peter says, how much white? Alex. Peter says, how much whiter are your teeth going to go, Darren? Well,
better ask Willie.
Yeah. Oh no! That's Phil. Right. OK. Before this descends into total farce, I'm going to ask Dr. Renee to take it away.
With pleasure. OK.
Stu.
Does everybody remember when Kim Ledbetter stood up and said that a vote for her assisted suicide bill wasn't so much a vote for the assisted suicide bill, but a vote to continue the debate in the committee stages? Well, the committee stages are here, and that's exactly what is not happening. So the first thing the committee did this week was vote to hold the meetings where they selected which witnesses would be heard from in secret. So the journalists and the public were asked to leave. Hansard's will be blank. Then Kim Ledbetter supplied the list at the last minute, changed, from which they would choose those said witnesses. She is in total control and supplied a list which was heavily weighted towards her bill passing. In fact, 9 of the lawyers who are going to speak for this bill, 7 of them are pro and 2 of them, at very best, are considered neutral. Then let's actually look at who else they're going to invite. They asked whether or not they could invite the Royal College of Psychiatrists. Seemed reasonable. They said no. Under pressure, they quickly reversed that decision. And then the hearings themselves. So when we went to the hearings and the question was asked whether or not people with disabilities or anorexia could be included under this bill, we have an amazing clip of an answer that was given. Let's look at that clip.
If you're very concerned about terminal anorexia, I'm sure that there's some tinkering you can do with the bill so that people would not be eligible for assisted dying. But in terms of the empirical data in jurisdictions that have legalised the Oregon model, which is what this is, there is one or two cases. I mean, this is not something that should be given a huge amount of time, because it's a distraction from the fact that really what we're talking about is a new mode of dying.
So, if one or two people with anorexia get killed by this bill, it's just a distraction. It's, you know, we shouldn't actually take any more time on it. And in actual fact, that witness went on to say that we're not dying as quickly as we used to. So the assisted suicide bill is a solution to a cultural and societal change. You're a solution, you're living too long. They had an Australian witness who said that the safeguards, the very safeguards that we're talking about, were actually more of a hindrance to the bill. And over time in Australia, they're going to recommend that they're taken away. This is the slippery slope. Don't forget, in Belgium and Holland, people over 70 are now being considered as criteria to be killed, because 70 is a long life lived, apparently. So for you younger people out there of 30 and 40 who think 70 is a life well lived, wait till you get closer to it and you might very well feel differently. Do not give this or any government the power to kill people in society who are considered to be not net contributors: the elderly, the disabled, the vulnerable.
I mean, to be honest with you, Renee, when I saw that clip earlier this week, I think the hearing, which has been handled absolutely appallingly and under a shroud of secrecy. You know, journalists were allowed in at one point and then told actually it wouldn't be. Kim Ledbetter has been really
aggressive.
Yes, it's been very, very dark. And I thought that clip in particular really did expose the whole premise of the bill and the so-called safeguards of the bill render them absolutely, well, meaningless.
As a doctor, I have never heard the term terminal anorexia. Anorexia is a very dangerous disease, for sure, and many people die of it. But not because they get a terminal diagnosis, but because it's very, very hard to get them out of that mindset that they're in.
This whole debate makes me feel very uneasy, because there seems to be a lot of people who are anti-life in general. I'm not just talking about like abortions and things like that, which is still quite a hot topic around the world, but anti-people living in general. They seem to want to reduce the population because they have a problem with our population. I'm not saying that we're not experiencing, you know, mass levels of people moving to our country, but generally we want people to live longer, not shorter lives.
But we keep saying that this happened in Canada, right? And they keep saying that this is fear-mongering and that actually the protections in this bill go further than what has happened in Canada. In Canada. But there is, I think, judicial activism that will enable the bill to go wider in scope than it currently allows.
100%. And the thing to think about this is there is a lockstep movement across the whole of the Western world to introduce some government-mandated, you know, ability to kill people. So you have to worry about why that's happening.
You are wrong on this, and I assume you are wrong on this. So why do you think that this is acceptable for people with anorexia to be told that they can end their lives?
No, I've never said that, Darren. You're trying to bait me. I'm not the lefty on this panel. I've got too much common sense for that.
You are wrong.
There is a clear distinction that needs to be made between terminal illnesses of the physical kind and a mental disorder. The whole point that I would make when you're talking about this is someone should be able to make an informed, considered decision. The one thing about someone with a mental illness is they are unable to do that. For that reason alone, they should not be eligible for this. I think there is a very clear line when it comes to mental disorders.
OK, Kai?
Well, I think the problem with this particular bill is that it's been dealt with so badly. And, Renee, we're in total agreement. Actually, the last time this was debated in Parliament, a private member's bill on assisted dying, it had months and months of debate. This has had weeks, I think 17 weeks.
And
it's not sufficient. And then at this point in the committee scrutiny stage, which is where the bill's at now, it's not getting that scrutiny and things can go under the radar. I totally agree.
Just messaged in and Christina says, I'm worried. I'm 70 and I have MS. It looks like time is up.
My grandmother had MS. My grandmother had MS, and she, even when she was the sickest I've ever seen, she always said she wanted to live.
Yes, and that's what I see.
What would your message be?
The message that we were hearing when the bill was being introduced was that it was only for people with terminal illnesses with 6 months to live. Now, I agree with you. There's a slippery slope here, and if there are exceptions being made and introduced in committee stage, that's worrying for all of us. And that's not a left-right issue.
I'm not going to accept the framing from this panel that this is just, government, power brokers trying to kill people. It comes down to their decision.
OK, but Will, hang on one second, because this is where I understand what you're saying. Yeah. However, we have to be honest and say there are going to be plenty of people who are under pressure from their families to go, I'm a burden to them, I want to end my life. And I don't want to
care in this country.
Once you give people the option, it happens. We do have, as Dr. Renee will tell you, people can have drugs that will end their life peacefully already.
Right. OK, we'll move on there because I am getting sick of Alex's voice. I want to talk to you about Red Ed Millishambles. He's been reported for breaching the ministerial code. That's right, my friends. The holier-than-thou Labour Party, the anti-sleaze crusaders and the Change Party. That is, you got any spare? And, of course, unless it's freebies from Lord Ali, well, they're up to their necks in heat-pump-boiled tepid water. The eco-tycoon Dale Vince, who bankrolled some of Labour's election campaign, has just had his company's massive solar farm approved on prime agricultural land. What a happy coincidence. Nick Timothy MP, a Conservative, calls it a blatant conflict of interest. He says this in The Telegraph. It's difficult to see how Ed Miliband has not broken the ministerial code in making this decision, which benefits a significant Labour donor. There is no case for constructing these giant solar and battery farms on agricultural land. But Miliband's net zero zealotry means more of these monstrosities are heading for rural communities. And they're the same rural communities that families will be selling off shortly because of their tax grab. We want food security in this country, not solar subsidy. And what a Miliband hypocrite he really is. The man who has the charisma of a damp dishcloth has just hired himself a vanity photographer, paid for, of course, by you. This is the same Ed Miliband who raged at the Tories for doing exactly the same thing.
Mr. Speaker, he's talking about hard choices this week. Because who has he chosen to put on the civil service payroll this week? His own personal photographer. Now, there's good news. There's good news for the Prime Minister. There's good news. Apparently, he does a nice line in airbrushing.
So it's not on when Lord Dishface does it, but when Ed Miliband does it, well, it's A-OK. And as the ginger growler herself, Angela Rayner, once thundered, she said, the public will be rightly questioning why there is no limit on money for vanity photographers. Well, she's got one herself. Huh. Or is it different now that it's this lot milking the taxpayer? The only £22 billion black hole appears to be her gob. Labour is proven to be a parody of the last Tory government, just with worse hair and even more insufferable virtue signalling. Meanwhile, Red Ed faces a referendum on his eco-zealotry in Doncaster North, where voters, according to polls, are quite supportive of the idea of affordable power, because while Miliband is busy plunging the UK into self-inflicted poverty, China is burning through coal faster than Sauron's Mordor. Miliband, he might have 2 kitchens, but he'll need 2 seats, because Doncaster North, well, I think they're going to tell him what he can do with his eco-hypocrisy, and what the British public and a bacon sandwich did in 2015 will come true again. Right, I mean, I've just had enough of this man. I think I would actually argue that as egregiously offensive as I find Starmer personally, Miliband is worse. I think he's dangerous, actually.
Well, I think that's it, isn't it? Ed Miliband is worse because he's an ideologue.
Yep.
And he's not working to any even efficiencies, any money, any reports, any science. He's an ideologue, and he's going to destroy people and land as he does it, and he doesn't care.
Yeah. Sorry. To hear from you, Renee, on this panel that Ed Miliband is an ideologue, when, frankly, all of you are ideologues.
Yeah, but we're not running
ridiculous. No, this zealotry against net zero, against facing the fact that something needs to be done about climate change, is absolutely ridiculous. This targeting of Ed Miliband, when actually he's doing the right thing for the country, and it could introduce a re-industrialisation of this country, and make us a green energy superpower.
Could you just walk
the idea that we can ignore all of that.
Okay, Kai,
is ridiculous.
I'd love that. If we were reindustrialising, where are we going to build the solar panels?
Yeah. Everywhere. I'd have them absolutely everywhere.
Well, why can we build them in China?
Yeah. Why can we build them cheaper and more effectively here than in China? Why? Like, everyone on the left says that this is such a great economic opportunity, but they cannot tell you very simply why it is a better opportunity than providing cheaper sources of energy, which has been the step change for growth in every single economic step forward over the last 200 years.
You and your ilk 20 years ago would talk about clean energy and say that it was unaffordable, right? And what we saw, is solar power and wind power by unit falling massively.
Hang on, why are we
the cost of those types of power falling massively.
Why do we still need
to the point where now it's actually much cheaper than oil and gas?
We have the most expensive energy in Europe.
In the world. Why do we have to subsidise?
That's not a problem with wind and solar power. Because if that was the case, then it would be the same case in Europe.
What is it? We shut down coal and we added wind and solar, and electricity got more expensive. Like, what else do you put it down to?
And killed North Sea oil and gas.
Might I just say as well?
Why do we have to subsidise them, Kai, if they're so cheap?
Why we need to subsidise these industries is as an industrial strategy to move towards Britain being...
They're not cheap.
Britain could be a clean energy superpower. China has more EVs than anywhere else in the world, right?
Yeah,
we should be listening to
the left. They're powering those cars. Coal.
The left don't seem to pay attention to the international news because I don't know if anyone here has seen the international news lately, but Norway's government, which has run its entire energy policy on net zero and green craziness, has just collapsed over this exact issue. It collapsed the other day. Now they're saying that they don't want to be doing all of this crazy net zero stuff, and they're even threatening to turn the power lines off to Britain, who they supply us with, I don't know how many % of Norway's energy we get, and that's how bad it is. Ed Miliband's about to have egg on his face because when they turn the pipes off to us, we're going to have more crisis here. Blackouts.
Janet says Miliband is bad for the country. We want great British food and good management. We do not want the countryside covered in solar panels made in China. And of course, these great whopping bird killers of steel and cement as well. And Greg says shutting down our gas and oil fields, destroying jobs and communities, only to import it on a fossil fuel juggling boat across the ocean for weeks on end from some far-flung hellhole. What a great idea.
That's right. That's the real tragedy of this. That's the real tragedy of this, because not only have we made energy more expensive for average Britons, we've also increased emissions by outsourcing it to China.
All right. Well, there's another chapter for the Kai Wilshaw is wrong on everything. Now, we'll find out after the break if Donald Trump is dangerous. Guess who thinks he is? Well, I would say I'll give you £1 million if you get it right, but I don't think it's that hard a question. And plus, has Sadiq Khan failed London? And again, a pretty easy question to answer. You're with the Saturday 5 and we're live on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Now, we're going to introduce you to Liam Wildish. Liam, well, I'd like to think he's a friend of mine because I follow him on Instagram, on TikTok there as well.
You're a big fan, aren't you?
Big fan, because there's what he does. He's a cleaner. He cleans signs. But the thing is, he's not employed by councils or whatever. He does this voluntarily. And you sort of think to yourself, well, who cleans these signs? Why have these signs been allowed to get into this terrible state of disrepair and filthiness?
So, basically, long story short, about 6 years ago, I used to be a window cleaner. In the community where I lived, I noticed all of the road signs were filthy, and I was perfectly equipped to clean them. So, basically, I cleaned the road signs as a bit of a thank you to the community and sort of make a little bit of awareness of my window cleaning business at the time. Sort of cleans up the area, makes the road safer, and that's kind of how that started. And people found it like a really satisfying sort of approach. So that sort of led on to today of a video in cleaning the dirty road signs and making sort of satisfying content with it as well.
What is the equipment? What have we got here?
So this is a water-fed pole system connected to a backpack, which is what feeds the water through the end of the brush there. It's perfectly equipped. to basically remove this green, dirty, it's like a mildew build-up that you get on the signs.
Yeah.
As you can see, this is like extremely effective at removing so.
So GB News viewers, if they spot a particularly grisly sign in their area, then they can get in touch.
They can do, yeah.
And Liam Wilder's the
absolutely.
sign guy can sort you out.
if you find Liam the sign guy online, drop me a message, let me know, and I'll add you to my list of places.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. I have had my water tested tonight. And,
we are looking a little orange, though.
It's safe for now. But, you know, Renee's on standby with that EpiPen. Now, lots of you have been getting in touch at gbnews.com/yoursay. Grumpy Grandad, I've got to go back to the oracle of common sense.
Grumpy Grandad?
He says, the only net zero I want is on immigration. Quite right. And then someone else, I've just lost your lovely comment. Oh, John says, I do hope that Kai is not representative of the Welsh. Well, John, given the sheer number of people that are going to vote for Reform UK in Wales, I don't think he is, to be perfectly honest. Even he's got squeaky bum time over what's going to happen in Wales. Now, thank you very much for those messages. We'll get on to our next debate. Who's up next?
I think that's me.
Oh, can we skip this one?
No, don't put your kettle on, because we're talking about Donald Trump. Yes, Donald Trump's policies have already proven to be a fascist nightmare. Just in the last few days, I've got a list here of some of the policies he's enacted. The US famine monitor has been offline for days after Donald Trump's freezing of federal funds to national aid charities. Leaders in the Pacific are scared. They're terrified that climate aid is going to be cut off because those countries are going to be disappearing in the next few decades. Sex discrimination in education repealed. The FBI has launched a sweeping staff cuts. Aren't those the people that keep that country safe? US federal workers have been ordered to remove pronouns from email signatures.
Yes.
Why is this the focus of the US federal government? All of this makes up for a grab bag of grievances, and it diminishes, actually, the US's position in the world when it focuses on these ridiculous grievances, and instead diminishes its position. And actually, the US used to be a beacon of hope, and now it looks quite ridiculous under Trump. And I fear that we have much more of this to come. I know that lots of the panel have actually been supportive of Trump in the last few months. What do you make of all of this?
I'm absolutely delighted, happier than a pig in a poke. I actually think that we should be adopting every single thing that he has announced in this country.
I agree.
You know what I find really interesting about your statement, Kai.
Miserable moan, you mean?
Yeah, that's it. Is that these statements of misery that are going to be 4 islands in the Pacific and people who live on the coast about they're going to disappear, have actually been proven wrong over the years. So, just a little fact for you. Since 2000, the Maldives have actually added 37 square kilometres of land to them, but apparently they're sinking and they're going to disappear. 16.5 kilometres of new islands have appeared within the South China Seas. The world that was going to end in 1990, according to Al Gore, is still here. These hysterical statements that you guys make in order to justify impoverishing people and making them poorer in the industrialised world just need to stop. It's scaremongering, and it never happens.
It's not, because what you're going to see in the next few decades, because of climate change, is a mass migration across the world up into the global north. And these issues that we're talking about now, immigration and so on, are only going to get worse. And so, really, it's in all of your interest to be taking an interest and
You're
actually...
threatening us with mass migration in order to get your climate...
No, because that is the natural result of massive parts of the world becoming uninhabitable. And the result, of course, is that people are going to have to move elsewhere.
So
there's a crisis on the way, and you are completely putting your heads in the sand.
That's a good suggestion. KC writes in and says, should we put Trump derangement syndrome as one of the illnesses permissible for assisted dying?
The funny thing is, Kai, that the left has gone on and on about democracy in recent years, and everything you've just said is incredibly popular with the American people. And it's popular because of the excesses of the woke movement, which people are fed up with. You can whinge all you want, but you are now very much part of a minority. The minority of people have seen what Trump has done and are incredibly happy about it.
People are angry about wokeism because the hard right, funded by massive ideologues, nutters, have pushed this narrative that wokeism or sort of social issues that actually don't affect many people are a threat to our society. Now, I don't believe that.
Answer this question then. If the civil service and all these other people who are supposed to serve the public, right, at vast taxpayer expense, the American civil service is huge, are focusing instead on workshops on diversity, equity and inclusion and putting their pronouns ever-changing into their bios, they're not serving the American public, are they? They should be focusing on the task at hand, which is do your damn job.
You are doing exactly the thing that I expected you to, which is to focus on something that's a nothing burger. I mean, changing how much time would it take you, Darren, to put your pronouns in your email?
Well, I think you're missing the point.
Study them.
I think you're missing. Yeah, I think you're missing the point. Well, you are because what happens is people get accused of X, Y and Zism because they got someone's pronouns wrong, which takes up HR. There was 35,000 DEI hires in America in the last year alone. And these are sorts of things that people have to tiptoe around. Rather than getting on with the job of governing people, they have to tiptoe around, have I got this person's name right or wrong? Have I got their sex right or wrong? It's ridiculous. But actually, look at the things that he has done. Since he started his first day in office, deportations have skyrocketed. Foreign criminals are being rounded up.
I love this.
It's fantastic news.
Keir Starmer's done exactly the same thing. You won't hear that from you.
Not really. Lee has messaged in, and Lee says, if Trump's actions are so petty and meaningless, why is Kai so upset? That's a very good point, I think. Right. Okie dokie, after that moan-a-thon, we have better news to come. Has Sadiq Khan failed London? Well, Alex Armstrong will be unleashing. And have we finally found a Labour policy that even Willie can get on board with? You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some pretty unsettled weather in central parts of the Mediterranean this weekend. Strong winds to go along with the heavy rain. Also a band of rain sweeping across parts of Spain, Portugal and into France as we go through tomorrow. Even some hill snow mixed in with this. But it's in the central Med where we have the heaviest rain, the strongest winds affecting parts of Italy, Greece, even the north of Africa as well. But as we go into next week, there will be a lot of dry and often sunny weather around. See you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into Sunday, it's going to be a cold but bright start in the southeast of England, often cloudy elsewhere with some spells of rain in the west. Taking a look at the bigger picture then, we have higher pressure out towards the south and east, a squeeze in the ice bars across the northwest with this band of rain. So as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight, we have heavy spells of rain moving into Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, further towards England and Wales, a cloudy night to come here, but across the far southeast of England, clear skies, and that will allow temperatures to quickly fall to give a touch of frost in places to start Sunday morning. But across Scotland to start Sunday morning, it's actually going to be a pretty dreary day. We'll see outbreaks of rain, heaviest across the western half of Scotland to start the day, but temperatures still holding up at around 7 or 8 degrees. Across Northern Ireland, a similar picture here, cloudy with outbreaks of rain, and that continuing across parts of Wales and down towards the southwest of England. Best of the brightness come Sunday morning is across the southeast of England. Plenty of sunshine here compared to Saturday. Now, we do hold on to cloud and rain across parts of Scotland and northwest England, but it should generally start fizzling out as we go through the afternoon and turning much drier and brighter across Northern Ireland as we head into the afternoon on Sunday. As for temperatures, generally around average, but feeling pleasant enough where you catch any sunshine. Now, through Monday, we've got bands of rain moving in across parts of Scotland. In the west in particular could turn heavy at times, that going into northern parts of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, a largely dry day to come with some spells of sunshine, but the best chance of any sunshine is going to be on Wednesday, where higher pressure starts dominating. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Thank you very much for getting in touch on gbnews.com/your say. Now, lots of you are asking about Kai's throat, actually. Someone arguing that they think he's got somewhat of a sore throat. And actually, Big Steve emailed in saying that he loved his Willie on Ben Leo tonight. I assume that means Will on Ben Leo's show, tonight, yeah, as opposed to anything else, to be clear. Right.
Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you, Steve. Absolutely. Now, you must have been very good, Will. Well done, you.
Thank you, Steve.
Now,
thank you, Darren.
Speaking of Will, it's time... Oh, no, it's not.
It's not.
It's not time for Will. I unleashed the Willie too early. Who's up next, then?
It's me, I think, actually, Darren. Yes.
Well, you're in the wrong chair.
Well, clearly. But Mayor of London, yes. He loves to do things for himself, but he loves to tell you what to do instead, doesn't he? It's a bit of a hypocrite, like a lot of the Labour politicians we see today. Now, it emerged this week that every 15 seconds, a Londoner is facing a ULEZ charge. Now, that's raised, up to mid-2023, that's the latest stats we have, it raised £500 million for the mayor's coffers. But is he suffering the same as Londoners? Well, let's have a quick look at how he's getting around it.
Democracy. Sadiq, I would have expected a hybrid at least. OK, that's it, is it? So he's not... So this is the Mayor of London. He's just done a photo op. He hasn't engaged with us at all. Few residents wanting to express some problems in the area, and he's just driven off.
Yeah, that's a £400,000 gas-guzzling Land Rover that is armour-plated, tax-exempt and ULEZ exempt and also paid for by the Met Police. Incredible stuff. He's telling you must pay for your gas-guzzling cars while he gets off scot-free. But then let's have a look at the climate, because he cares so much about the climate, doesn't he? Sadiq Khan loves the climate. Well, he's telling you must fly less. You mustn't go on those trips away your little break every year. In the meantime, since he became mayor, him and his team have racked up 440,000 air miles. Incredible stuff. Let's have a look at knife crime, shall we? That's another big issue. Londoners just want that solved. It's been up 54% since he became mayor. But when it came to being challenged on it, look what he had to say.
Go out on the streets, and sometimes at night time, go out on the streets at night time and see about the gangs running around with machetes, because that's the stories I am hearing from the people that are running the night economy. That is not good.
Sadiq Khan.
I say in a respectful way, I think the Tory candidates should stop watching The Wire. We're not living in Baltimore.
Oh, incredible. It's just absolutely incredible. There are children being stabbed on our streets, and there are people running around with machetes, but yeah, he tells the ex-Tory candidate for mayor that this isn't Baltimore. Incredible stuff. And also, let's have a look at council tax, shall we? Well, he's claimed that London is broke, and he's had to raise millions more pounds on Londoners' council taxes this year. That's despite the fact he spent 2.1 million just this week, we found out, on woke statues in London. 6.3 million on the Overground rebrand. And to top it all off, more emerged about that Taylor Swift ticket that he almost failed to declare. Well, it found out that the people who gave them those tickets got a £45 million contract. I'm telling you, it's one rule for Sadiq Khan and another for you at home. Now, the reality is that this hypocrisy is shared amongst top front-bench Labour politicians. Isn't it time we just give them all the boot?
Absolutely. Right, I've got to ask Kai to defend this political pygmy.
I'm so tired
not you, Kai.
of this attack against Sir Sadiq Khan.
He's not a sir yet.
He is soon. He has dedicated his life to public service. So many of the attack lines.
Do you have a response to any of those things, Kai?
Yes.
Do you have a response to any of those things? What about the ULEZ funds, the climate change?
Alex, let me actually get past my first sentence, shall we? ULEZ, right? Lots of these environmentally focused policies tackling motorists actually have been proven to be successful. You look at in Wales.
Why is he driving around the chauffeured car?
Where I'm from, the 20 miles per hour limit, decried by motorists across the world, actually has resulted in 100 fewer casualties in the last year. That is a success story.
Why is he driving around in a chauffeured Land Rover? Why is he exempt from his own laws, his own taxes?
Why is he exempt? Why is one of the most prominent members of one of the most prominent politicians in the land driving around in an armoured car? Are you really asking that question?
Why is he not driving around in a green car?
When you and your ilk every week on this show will attack the first Muslim mayor of London.
Why does he think?
And you're asking
why does he think you should fly less?
A £400,000 armoured car.
Why does he think you should fly less?
That question. Do you not really think about that?
Kai, answer them. Why do you think he thinks you should fly less? That he's racked up in his team 440,000 air miles in the last game there.
And you really think that the top ambassador for London, one of the biggest global cities in the world,
get on a Zoom meeting.
You are talking out of your bum.
Kai, can I
Alex,
ask you
know
because the Welsh fire chief, obviously in Wales, said that the 20-mile-per-hour limit that you say has been good for the whole of Wales has hit response times, and that people may have been left in catastrophic events as a consequence of it. So how can you argue that it's a good thing?
I agree.
People should languish in fires.
The policy was rolled out badly by councils.
Because it's a bad policy.
Because they had discretion to decide which roads were 20 miles per hour and otherwise.
Ultimately, Sadiq Khan...
But it's saved 100 lives.
In those Range Rovers...
In a year.
Those Range Rovers where he's decked out with his armoured plate and all the rest of it, abroad more than a foreign dignitary. And actually, Boris Johnson used to cycle around London.
He did. Yeah, and Ken Livingstone used to at least get the tube.
Okie dokie. Right, what have we got to come tonight? Well, we'll bring you this week's Triggered Tantrums.
called me a privileged white man.
You cannot be racist to white people because white people are the dominant race in this country. Full stop.
That's Kai in a week. Have we finally found a Labour policy that Will can get on board with? Oh, you're with the Saturday 5. We're live on GB News.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
That's football.
Well,
you know, it's the hope that kills you.
It does. It gives you highs, it gives you lows. I mean, if you're an Everton fan at the moment, you probably had far too many lows. But as you know, I'm a Nottingham Forest fan.
Well, you must be having a huge high.
But you had one of the greatest footballers ever to grace the game, right? And that was Dixie Dean.
Yeah, absolutely. William Ralph Dean. Didn't like being called Dixie, but that was his nickname. And he was born in 1907. He was my grandfather's best mate. I'm an Everton shareholder. I've been, attached to the club all my life, and so was my father, so was my grandfather, our greatest ever player.
So back in the day when players like Dixie Dean were playing football for big crowds in, a proper...
72,000.
Yeah, a proper working class sport back in the day, weren't it, football? Not like it is today. You've got to be pretty wealthy to afford a ticket.
Even in the 70s, right, and I've seen some, I do like looking back on the football that I watched as a kid. Even in the 70s now, I've seen pictures of the turnstiles, as we used to call them, with a sign at the top, 5 shillings for the Eastern Terrace. 5 shillings. Yeah. Last time I turned down a ticket to go to a football match was Arsenal, who wanted me to pay £830 for a seat in an executive lounge. And though I could have afforded it, because I've worked all my life like you, I just thought at that point, that's ridiculous.
Well, you should have told him you were Keir Starmer's security man. You'd have probably got him for nothing.
Well, that's a good idea. Yeah.
But you go back to the 1930s and 1940s, even the 1960s and 70s. The footballers would walk to the ground and play a game, and then walk back and go for a few beers in the pub.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Thank you very much for your messages coming in so far, but I'm desperate. I was going to say I'm desperate for Willie. I'm desperate for Will, of course, to get on to our next debate. Will, take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Darren. I believe that's called a Freudian slip. The government has announced that it will be cracking down on the country's $65 billion sickness benefits bill. Good. That number is expected to balloon out to over $100 billion, or pounds I should say, by the end of this parliamentary term. That's more than the police, that's more than the courts, and that's more than the schools combined. This is welcome news, but it won't go nearly far enough. Costs have exploded since 2020, and there is one unmistakable reason why, and that is mental health benefits claims. 69% of all sickness benefits claims now include mental health on the assessment form. We cannot afford this. Now, they're going to say they're going to make it harder in order to claim for mental health benefits. That does not go far enough. I say this as someone through the course of my life who has been on medication, both for anxiety and for depression. We need to scrap mental health benefits entirely. I would wager the majority of these claims are either people who are completely grifting the system, or they are people who are struggling with the difficulties of life in a way where we never used to call that or associate that with depression or anxiety. To the, I would argue, minority of people who are claiming mental health benefits as a result of legitimate cases of depression and anxiety. Whilst it is incredibly sad, the answer to that is not to sit on a couch and claim money every week from the government. The answer is to find a sense of purpose, and one of the main ways that you can go about doing that is getting a job. I would argue the people who are actually suffering from these instances of mental health problems, the amount of people who literally cannot fulfil a job as a result of that condition is vanishing small, if not zero. What we're doing, as opposed to dishing out money for either non-serious or serious cases of mental or behavioural problems, is saying that they are permanent, they're irreversible, and the best way to solve that is to just keep doing nothing and wallowing in self-pity. There needs to be a change of thinking, both at a government level and a society level, that starts with ditching handouts for mental health benefits. Kai, your thoughts?
Look, as previously on this panel, I just feel that there's a lack of humanity here. I'm really glad you opened up about your experiences, but not everybody can get themselves up and just, as you say, find a sense of purpose. People need support to get through some really quite serious mental health challenges. Now, I agree with you. There has been a rise, clearly, in people who self-report mental health issues. Now, whether or not that is to do with a rise in acceptance of, public acceptance of mental health issues and having those and talking about those more broadly, or whether it is a rise because of, because of other factors or because of people just self-reporting because they want to, I am not sure. Dr. Renee, I'm sure, will tell us. But it's so unfair to look at a population who find it difficult to work, find it difficult to actually find a purpose in life, and to say those people are bloody useless and they shouldn't be supported by the state. I mean, to scrap entirely mental health benefits, I think, is so inhumane of you.
Well, for starters, they can always get unemployment benefits. But the other thing I would say is support doesn't just mean a handout from the government. Support means help from local communities. Support means help from doctors. Support means help from families. We can't just think of support as just handing money away. We can't afford it, and it is not the best way to deal with a mental health issue.
Well, what I would say, one of our viewers, Alex, has written in and he says that we're bashing Labour too much and not bashing the last 14 years of the Conservative Party. Well, I would argue, have you just tuned in? Because I think that every single week we bash the Conservative Party.
Pretty much did, yes.
It was the Conservatives that put in place personal independence payments and all these other things.
And also, I'll tell you what the Conservatives did that destroyed
the mental health.
They did COVID lockdowns, and suddenly that policy allowed people to sit at home, get paid, and think, actually, I'd rather be at home. It destroyed it.
Yeah.
Of course, Kai, we need mental health support for people with schizophrenia, bipolar, but the rest of it, we're absolutely right. For people that say, I'm feeling a bit anxious today, I'm sorry, go to work. The best thing you can do is go to work.
Can I just add as well that, I mean, whilst I absolutely agree with everything Will has said, I do find it rich when the Labour government is spending billions on foreign aid, 500 million to farmers to then punish British citizens instead and take their benefits away when we're chopping out our money left, right and centre to everyone that asks for it. I find that difficult to swallow. I think many British people will find that difficult to swallow too. But we are becoming a benefit state, and the Tories are 100% to blame. We are suffering because of their terrible, horrendous anti-conservative policies.
Of course you would pull the rug under some of the most vulnerable and marginalised people in the world.
You'd give benefits to everybody. You give everyone the benefits
makes us safer, stronger, builds alliances, and you...
Thank you. I tell you what, my mental health is suffering right now, and it's because of this Labour government. Right, loads more to come on the show tonight, including the Oscar-nominated trans actress who faces calls to be cancelled. I'll be facing off Kai in the Saturday Scrap, and this week's triggered tantrums with the Saturday 5. We're live on GB News.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into Sunday, it's going to be a cold but bright start in the southeast of England, often cloudy elsewhere with some spells of rain in the west. Taking a look at the bigger picture, then we have higher pressure out towards the south and east, a squeeze in the ice bars across the northwest with this band of rain. So as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight, we have heavy spells of rain moving into Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, further towards England and Wales. A cloudy night to come here, but across the far southeast of England, clear skies, and that will allow temperatures to quickly fall to give a touch of frost in places to start Sunday morning. But across Scotland to start Sunday morning, it's actually going to be a pretty dreary day. We'll see outbreaks of rain, heaviest across the western half of Scotland to start the day, but temperatures still holding up at around 7 or 8 degrees. Across Northern Ireland, a similar picture here, cloudy with outbreaks of rain, and that continuing across parts of Wales and down towards the southwest of England. Best of the brightness come Monday morning is across the southeast of England. Plenty of sunshine here compared to Saturday. Now, we do hold on to cloud and rain across parts of Scotland and northwest England, but it should generally start fizzling out as we go through the afternoon and turning much drier and brighter across Northern Ireland as we head into the afternoon on Sunday. As for temperatures, generally around average, but feeling pleasant enough where you catch any sunshine. Now, through Monday, we've got bands of rain moving in across parts of Scotland. In the west in particular could turn heavy at times, that going into northern parts of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, a largely dry day to come with some spells of sunshine, but the best chance of any sunshine is going to be on Wednesday, where higher pressure starts dominating. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Well, specialist from Woolly and Wallace Auction House, Alexandra Aguilar, joins me now. Alexandra, how lovely to see you. And I wonder whether you were going to bring the jewellery in. You're actually wearing the jewellery. So shall we begin with the bracelet?
Right, so it's a diamond line bracelet, as you can see. It's really a beautiful thing. It's made of 27 diamonds with a yellow tint, and they are mounted on yellow gold, and it's really a beautiful, beautiful piece. But there's more to it, and as you mentioned, it's the provenance. It comes from the collection of Elizabeth Taylor, really one of the queens of Hollywood, and it was given to her by Michael Jackson.
Have you any idea why Michael Jackson gave her such a magnificent gift?
They were very, very good friends. They were friends for over 20 years, and he knew her love for diamonds, for jewelry, and we know that they exchanged many presents, including this fantastic bracelet.
Would that have been made new at that time?
Yes, I believe so.
We're talking, what, about the 1970s or something like that?
Oh, maybe a little bit later.
Later, 80s?
Yes, that's right. But what's particularly interesting about this one is all the 27 diamonds have the same colour. And it's very difficult to find stones with the same colour, with the same yellow tint. So it makes it particularly beautiful and particularly special. Why
do you think it will go for about £70,000?
It's... well, it is a beautiful piece. It's very wearable, as you can see, and there is the provenance is amazing. Jewelry from the collection of Elizabeth Taylor is very sought after, of course.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Saturday night, and this is the Saturday 5. I'm Darren Grimes, along with Will Kingston, Dr. Renee, Alex Armstrong, and Kai Wilshaw. Plenty more to come tonight, including the Saturday scrap as I take on our resident lefty, Kai. Plus,
I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do.
well, she shouldn't give up her singing career, should she? Because the acting one isn't looking that great. And that's, of course, from this week's Triggered Tantrums coming up shortly at 7 p.m. And this is the Saturday 5. We'll also be discussing the phenomenon of this Oscar-nominated trans actress, right? She ticks every woke box going, who faces calls to be cancelled for having opinions that are perhaps associated with the right of politics, and why the US Vice President has gone to war with a British podcaster, well, and a former politician, of course. I don't know why anyone would want to listen to that. I'd sooner listen to Kai screech for an hour.
Much the same.
Send in your questions for Ask the Five. You can do so by going to gbnews.com/your say. First of all, though, it's your Saturday night news with Sophia Wensler.
Darren, thank you. It's just gone 7 o'clock. These are your headlines. Donald Trump has said many ISIS terrorists have been killed in caves by US airstrikes he ordered this morning. Posting on his social media site, Truth Social, the US president said, "This morning I ordered precision military airstrikes on the senior ISIS attack planner and other terrorists he recruited and led in Somalia. These killers, who we found hiding in caves, threaten the United States and our allies." Staying in the US, the mayor of Philadelphia has confirmed the driver of a car was also killed when a medical transport plane crashed in the city. All 6 on board were killed in the crash, including a young patient and her mother. At least 19 others were also injured after the jet rescue air ambulance erupted into a fireball just 30 seconds after takeoff, engulfing several homes in flames. An investigation is underway with officials from the National Transport Safety Board on the scene. It comes just days after a plane collided with a US Army helicopter near Washington, D.C., killing 64 people on the plane and 3 on the helicopter. Meanwhile, the King has said he is profoundly shocked and saddened by the events, saying our hearts and our special thoughts are with the people of the United States. Hamas and Israel have exchanged hostages and prisoners today in the 4th swap of a fragile ceasefire in Gaza. In Tel Aviv, supporters clapped and threw their hands in the air as they watched the last of 3 hostages cross the border into Israel. Meanwhile, in exchange, 182 Palestinian prisoners are expected to have been freed, with some already taken in buses to Gaza and the West Bank, some serving life sentences. The release comes as Gaza's Rafah crossing reopens for the first time, allowing injured Palestinians into Egypt. 6 people have been arrested following Stop the Isolation and Stand Up to Racism rallies in central London today. Thousands of protesters have gathered in the capital with a march in support of Tommy Robinson and a separate counter-demonstration. Robinson is currently serving an 18-month prison sentence for breaching a High Court injunction. And some breaking news. 4 people have died after a vehicle crashed into a building in Colchester. Essex Police said the deaths were confirmed at the scene at Magdalen Street. The families of the victims have been informed and will be supported by specialist police officers. And family, friends and fans turned out for the funeral of singer Linda Nolan in Blackpool today. Along with her sisters, Linda was part of a pop group, the Nolans, known for their hit I'm in the Mood for Dancing. Linda died on the 15th of January, aged 65, 2 decades after she was first diagnosed with cancer. In Linda's memory, donations are being raised for Trinity Hospice, continuing her legacy of hope and resilience. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to the Saturday 5.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
It's Saturday night and you're with the Saturday Five. I'm Darren Grimes and I can promise that you're in for another very lively hour. We'll crack on now with tonight's big interview. Now, an Oscar-nominated trans actress, someone that ticks all the right boxes for the diversity and inclusion warriors, was just facing threats of cancellation after old tweets were discovered in which she had a pop at diversity, Muslims and George Floyd. Carla Sofa Gascon reportedly wrote, "I'm sorry, is it just my impression, or is there more Muslims in Spain? Every time I go to pick my daughter up from school, there are more women with their hair covered and their skirts down to their heels. Next year, instead of English, we'll have to teach Arabic." Now, Carla has also said things about black people and about the case of George Floyd, who, of course, sparked the Black Lives Matter madness that took over in 2020. Now, it's created a storm online where activists are proposing that the Academy, the official body that puts together the award ceremony, should rethink the nomination of this particular Spanish actor. Now, to discuss this, I'm pleased to welcome the former showbiz editor and journalist, Lee Purvis. Lee, thank you very much for your company. I mean, is this basically the glitterati's way of saying that if you've got certain opinions, well, you can't be nominated for an award?
No, I don't think it is. And I think from my experience, having reported live from many Oscar ceremonies over the years, you know, they love a bit of PR. You know, you could argue this is extremely damaging, incredibly dangerous areas and zones to go into. However, it's publicity. You know, this film, for example, that Carla's in, Emilia Perez, you know, it's up for 13 nominations. Now, cancel culture, as we well know, is rife, okay? But in this particular instance, you know, you've got to look at the whole PR propaganda around the Academy Awards and the Oscars. You know, the wildfires in LA, for example, there was panic that the Oscars would be cancelled over that. You know, every year there's something leading up to the Oscars to give them a platform, another stage on the global world of PR. And, you know, this is timely. You know, the next 97th Academy Awards is just weeks away in early March. And it'll be really interesting to see if, in fact, she will be cancelled. Personally, I don't think they will cancel her. But, of course, many people rightly feel that that should happen.
Mm. So then, what is the process then of rescinding an award? Can that happen? Can it be retroactively? Is there a historic precedent for that?
So that has happened. However, what I would say, without obviously naming anyone, is there are some very powerful people on the board with the Academy Awards, you know, and very influential people. They will not be happy about the latest revelations. And the fact, of course, that Carla's put together a statement yesterday, she released a statement apologising profusely. These posts on social media she'd allegedly made had been deleted, and it was a journalist who uncovered them and revealed them earlier this week. So there's a lot of questions around how that journalist got access, why that journalist has revealed them. But in terms of receding, giving back an Oscar once you've handed someone or even nominated, you know, that would be quite good PR for the Academy Awards. But again, whether they go through with it very much depends who's pulling the strings.
Do you find that in your line of work then, right? You've been in this industry for a wee while. I don't wish to make you sound old, Lee, but if I'm not being impertinent, I promise. But Lee, this kind of online offence archaeology, and what I mean by that is trawling through old tweets. People have passed. I mean, George Floyd wasn't that long ago, to be fair, but... You know, I've said things about George Floyd. I mean, I know I'm not going to win.
But this is the Be Kind community. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
These people, these trans people, and I'm not going to call her a her, it's a man, are be kind.
And this is happening more and more, though, isn't it? As in the going through Twitter.
Arguably, you know, with my journalist heads on, if you're putting yourself out there as an actor and making a name for yourself in those areas, then you have to watch what you're putting out on social media, you know. Some people would say that, actually, in this case, Carla is held accountable.
Alex?
Is this a sign of the times? I mean, you know, we've seen Donald Trump become elected now. There's this sort of the Overton window, so to speak, has shifted. People seem to be a little less offended or open to people having slightly, perhaps, what some would deem offensive remarks. Do you think that cancellation is now more unlikely because of this culture shift we're seeing in America?
Quite possibly, arguably, yeah. But I don't actually think we will see that happen. As I say, I think, you know, we'll see who's pulling the strings. And I think, you know, it's great PR, even though it's horrendous. We will see a lot of movement on the back of this. But whether the right decision's made very much depends on the people, again, making those executive decisions.
So that's quite interesting, Lee. So following on from what Alex says, because the window is changing in the States in terms of the whole trans identity thing, we have here a man who is up for a female award. If he wins it, a woman is going to lose out. Do you think there's possibly a sea change behind the scenes to stop that happening now, and therefore Carla won't win the award anyway?
No, I don't think that's the case, actually. I disagree with that. I think, you know, the whole fact that there's been a lot of PR on the fact that this is the first ever trans actor to be nominated speaks volumes in itself. In terms of a trend of movements in our country, in the UK, yes, we take a lot from America, but in some ways we're very different as well.
Yeah, and, you know, it's worth going back to that point I made at the start there, that this is the first nomination for a trans person, right? So they were very excited about it, and then found out that that trans person's guilty of wrongthink. So, you know, it came crashing down.
This category of stories is one of my very favourites, when someone who ticks one diversity box is then discovered to be against other diversity boxes. It's like in Austin Powers when the fembot's head just starts spinning around. The lefties just can't compute. The head just explodes.
So, Will, is there not a question there about society and this kind of industry?
Potentially, well, the question would be, Lee, like, we know that Hollywood is potentially the archetypal example of wokeism, for want of a better term. How entrenched are those views? Alex just mentioned the vibe shift. Do you think that we're going to keep seeing, in inverted commas, woke movies, even though that they don't necessarily have mainstream appeal? Or do you think Hollywood will potentially follow the rest of the culture shift in America?
It's very interesting, and I think we are going to see more woke movies, whether we like it or not. And what's also really interesting around the woke generation, as we'd say, is that actually they're kind of going a bit retro and a bit old school. I don't think we'll see this movement for long, but I think for the next 12 to 18 months, there will be a powerful effect. And in fact, that effect probably within the film industry will be reciprocated in the UK, but I don't think it'll last for long.
All right. I mean, Kai, you must be absolutely furious that they could have found such a horrible trans bigot.
Yeah, I just don't know where to start with this. I mean, really, this is such a non-story. And there's so many things to pick up on. Dr. Renee, I'm sorry, but to call this trans actress who's
a man.
Well, to call them a man is just so insulting. It's just, I can't believe that this stuff is aired. I mean, really.
Catherine's written in, though, and Catherine says the man should have been up for the male award.
Yes. This is depriving a woman of a nomination and potentially an award, Kai. I'm a woman. I was born a woman. I can never be a man, even if I want to. Fact. Scientific fact.
All right, OK. Lee, thank you very much for that. That's Lee Purvis there, giving us an update on the actress who is called Carla. And Carla Sofia Garçon. And, yes, that was my European attempt.
I mean, do you know, it's so insulting. I'm actually going to say it's so insulting as a woman to sit here and be told by a man that it's just insulting for me to defend women. It's actually insulting. There is no way to change your sex, Kai. End of story.
But I just don't see why it's so offensive to people like you, for people to identify in the way that they choose, because they're and to go ahead to live their lives, They can live their lives how they in the way that they choose.
How they want.
And for you to...
No, stop, Kai. They can't take my awards. They can't take my...
But these are all minority cases.
Can you not see?
The right-wing media always... No, let me finish. The right-wing media always finds these tiny minority cases in sports, in acting, and to justify their agenda of depriving trans people from their rights when they are the most vulnerable and marginalised people in the... No, that is not a myth. How is that a myth?
Actual issue.
It's a myth.
How is that a myth?
Can't support that with any data.
Kai, can you actually explain how the fact of the matter is that these woke people have actually said that it's a step too far to have someone on the right win an award like this? You do realise that this is shooting the woke in the foot, isn't it?
Well, look, I don't think that anybody should be cancelled for things that they've said historically, frankly.
All right. Okie dokie. We're giving you, my friends at home, the chance to win in our latest Great British giveaway, as we've got 2 amazing prize bundles to be won, you lucky lot. Here's all the details that you need.
The Great British Giveaway is officially 1 year old, and we have a birthday treat for you. We're giving you not 1, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, Jules has just gotten in touch and says, hilarious, a man up for a woman's award and he turns out not to have the prescribed views. Hilarious. Everything woke turns to sugar. Now, this week's triggered tantrums. Well, have a look at these. Up next, my friends, as well, is Priti Patel right that mass migration was necessary? That's going to be the Saturday scrap between me and Kai. We'll show you with the Saturday 5. We're live on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
A woman of 53 has believed for 18 months she was in an online relationship with Brad Pitt.
I think we're seeing pictures. So these are the pictures that she received that made her believe that she was in this relationship with Brad Pitt.
And you'll see that some of it is in hospital because the scammer was claiming that he was suffering from cancer. This was playing very much on her emotion. So this is a divorcee who lived in Mauritius. She'd received a £700,000 divorce settlement, or £650,000 divorce settlement, I should say, and £700,000 has been taken from her through this scam.
Yeah.
As she was becoming, every time she became suspicious, the money was taken for payment of charges on gifts that she never received, and then hospital fees. There was lots of emotions being played into there. Now, as somebody, I'm a rom-com writer by trade, so I write romantic fiction. And one of the books I've written has actually been about somebody who did online dating, got herself into a whole heap of trouble. Not quite, she wasn't in a relationship with Brad Pitt, but she met somebody dodgy. So because I've written that book, I've met a lot of people who've come up to me and said, oh, it's happened to me.
It's scary in this digital age, isn't it?
They've lost $700,000, but somebody has tried it on. Somebody my question is, would a man go 18 months in a relationship online without seeing somebody and keep it going? Or is this feeding into this neediness of a particular demographic of a woman who that's better than anything else she got going on in her life, was what was being fed to her over the internet?
And then maybe a little bit of her knew, but she kind of just suppressed it because she
was hoping it was Brad Pitt.
Her daughter apparently for a year was saying, this can't be true, come on, think about it. But she just fell for it. But I just wonder, what strikes me, it's a very sad story. She's obviously now getting a lot of hate and ridicule as well.
Because she's been on French TV and she's had a huge amount of pushback from it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Thank you very much for all of your emails. Someone's just messaged in saying, please get me on with Kai Ben. You're watching the wrong show. And NJ has written in with a question for Kai and says, Darren, please ask Kai this for me. Is it OK for a white person to identify as black and then win a Black Person Award?
We're comparing apples and oranges. I'm sorry. And they know that, and you all know that. No. It's not the gotcha that you think it is. You know that.
By the little jewels there. And Alex says, if a movie gets a woke alert, I will simply not watch it. Yeah. So, you know, I think they're going to lose some money, and then someone else says...
Yeah. Black Panther says otherwise.
OK. Now, thank you very much. Someone else just messaged me on Instagram saying, Darren, have you been to Essex?
I was born in Essex. Do you know that?
Oh, why?
A fake Welshman.
Well, you look like a ghost. How's that?
Sorry?
All right. Thank you very much for those messages. There's lots more to come, including this.
Called me a privileged white man. You cannot be racist to white people because white people are the dominant race in this country. Full stop.
Oh, she's angry. Oh, is that a man?
She?
I don't know anymore.
Today.
Right. Now, though, my friends, it's time for this. Yes, indeedy. Ding, ding, ding. Get your boxing gloves on. It's time for tonight's main event. Now, former Home Secretary Priti Patel, good friend of mine, she was very supportive of me during my fight with the Electoral Commission over Brexit, but I'm afraid to say that she is totally wrong in what she has said this week, and I was bitterly disappointed. That is, the former Home Secretary Priti Patel said that mass migration was totally necessary when the Conservatives were in power.
People in the pandemic came here, health and social care visas. What would have happened to our NHS? Are we now saying, are you and others saying we don't need those people in our NHS?
So, just to prove how wrong Priti Patel is, I'm going to have Kai Wilshaw argue that actually Priti Patel has an absolute point to make here, and that isn't just total nonsense. So, Priti, you've won one fan. Well done you. It happens to be the wokest man in Britain, but hey-ho. Seconds out, my friends. It's round one. Ding, ding, ding. Let's get in our little boxes, battle boxes, ready to box for the nation.
Look.
All right. OK, they're coming in a minute. Right, all right, Kai. I'm going to ask you to take it away, Kai.
Yes. Shall I just start speaking and I won't be on screen?
Yes, unfortunately.
Look, what Priti Patel said was quite out of character, right? Because she's been very, very hard line on immigration for many years. And for her to say this came as quite a surprise to yourself, Darren, and many others. Now, the point she's making is quite a specific point about skilled worker routes and how to fill gaps that, frankly, British workers are not willing, sometimes not able, to fill. Now, the specific point she gave was health and care during the pandemic. But there are plenty of other examples that you can see coming through in the next few years. You can imagine a scenario where you need skilled workers to fill a gap where actually foreign visas would do so. Things like you can't, frankly, build Heathrow in the next decade without a surplus of construction workers. And skilled construction workers are in a deficit in Britain at this moment. Farm workers, there's a farm worker shortage as well. Green energy is going to require lots of skilled workers, engineers, manufacturers, that we just don't have the capacity for. So actually, there is a case for specific, targeted, industrial strategy-led worker, skilled worker visas. And I think that's the right thing to do. And so Priti Patel was making a specific point here, not pro-immigration, but pro-skills and pro-growth.
Well, it was pretty pro-immigration, given that the Conservatives imported a city the size of Birmingham and she was there defending it. Yeah. If the NHS needs to be staffed better, right, and you have a cap in place on the number of doctors that can be trained each year, why does that cap exist? Why aren't we allowing every single British person who wants to train to be a doctor to do so? You have that cap in place today under your party's government. So, one, I would take you to task on that. Secondly, the idea that we need to import everybody into build Heathrow. You're not going to build Heathrow, you daft apeth, because of the fact that your government is mad on net zero. It's going to be challenged in the courts and found to be unlawful because of the net zero noose around our economy's neck. So this stuff is just pie in the sky. You basically want to import everybody here because you say, goody, goody, voters for Labour. And if we have to build a city the size of Birmingham, then to hell with the whole British population that has to deal with the crushing effect on public services and the cultural fabric of this country. Shame on you, Kai.
No.
Can I come
Renee's
in
desperate to
I really am,
we're going to come to Renee.
There's so many points here. We haven't got a load of British people who won't do these jobs. What we've got is a load of businesses who are subsidised by the state, bringing in cheap workers. If we paid people enough to actually do these jobs, they would do them, number one.
Or reduce the incentives to be unemployed.
Absolutely.
That's free market capitalism for you, I'm afraid.
Finished. Number two, there was a mandate in COVID that care workers had to have the COVID vaccine. We lost 40,000 care workers as a result. And does that vaccine work? It didn't then and it doesn't now. Second to that, I just recently investigated whether or not I could go to the USA as a doctor because I'm so tired of being one here. You can't. You really can if you get 95% in their very difficult exams and then do a 3-year residency. Now, that's because the USA trains enough doctors of their own. They don't need me or want me. Whereas here, last year, the GMC registered more foreign-born doctors than it did UK-bred ones. We're not making bricklayers. We're not making roofers. We are actually actively working for migrant workers.
But you're totally right. We're not supporting the skills that are required for the industries of the future. We're not supporting healthcare workers and doctors, but that's where we are. And so, frankly, to say that we should have a system more like the US, that's going to take a decade plus to actually enact.
Will Sean has said the reason we're short of engineers and construction workers is because Tony Blair put in a target in force that insists everybody ought to go to university.
Yeah, that's part of it. But we're mischaracterising this. The majority of people who are coming across the border are not engineers or high-skilled workers. We know that the majority of migrants take more from the economy than they put in. So mass migration is problematic because we're not getting the right people, we're not getting the speed right, and we're not getting the volumes right.
And then independents who are actually, many of them, GB News found this week on gbnews.com, many of them are actually dependent on benefits.
That's right. I don't have a problem with engineers in the top tax bracket coming to this country. The problem is the vast majority of them are net takers from...
Will, this idea... Sorry, can I just jump in on that factual
Let's
point?
get Alex.
I think the reality is, you vote Tory, you're going to get mass migration. They have not learnt their lessons. The fact that Priti Patel is Shadow Foreign Secretary... Thankfully, she's not Home Secretary, Shadow Home Secretary. shows that they are refusing to learn the reason why the British public booted them out after telling them and voting for them to get it down to tens of thousands of people. That, to me, says Priti Patel is out of touch. She does not know what the British people want. And if Kemi Badenoch had a backbone, she'd sack her today.
We've just had a message from Dorothy, and Dorothy says, "Hello, Darren. I met your mam today in Houghton Spring
there you go.
at the Reform UK conference." Lovely lady. That's very nice. That is lovely. Very much, Dorothy. Right, OK, now, still to come.
Black and Indigenous people of colour. Black and Indigenous people of colour.
Well, that's going straight to #1 in the charts, isn't it? The biggest tantrums of the week will be coming up. But next, it's the bunch of five. Should 3-year-olds celebrate Pride? Kai says yes. You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some pretty unsettled weather in central parts of the Mediterranean this weekend. Strong winds to go along with the heavy rain. Also a band of rain sweeping across parts of Spain, Portugal and into France as we go through tomorrow. Even some hill snow mixed in with this. But it's in the central Med where we have the heaviest rain, the strongest winds affecting parts of Italy, Greece, even the north of Africa as well. But as we go into next week, there will be a lot of dry and often sunny weather around. See you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into Sunday, it's going to be a cold but bright start in the southeast of England, often cloudy elsewhere with some spells of rain in the west. Taking a look at the bigger picture then, we have higher pressure out towards the south and east, a squeeze in the ice bars across the northwest with this band of rain. So as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight, we have heavy spells of rain moving into Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, further towards England and Wales, a cloudy night to come here, but across the far southeast of England, clear skies, and that will allow temperatures to quickly fall to give a touch of frost in places to start Sunday morning. But across Scotland to start Sunday morning, it's actually going to be a pretty dreary day. We'll see outbreaks of rain, heaviest across the western half of Scotland to start the day, but temperatures still holding up at around 7 or 8 degrees. Across Northern Ireland, a similar picture here, cloudy with outbreaks of rain, and that continuing across parts of Wales and down towards the southwest of England. Best of the brightness come Sunday morning is across the southeast of England. Plenty of sunshine here compared to Saturday. Now, we do hold on to cloud and rain across parts of Scotland, northwest England, but it should generally start fizzling out as we go through the afternoon and turning much drier and brighter across Northern Ireland as we head into the afternoon on Sunday. As for temperatures, generally around average, but feeling pleasant enough where you catch any sunshine. Now, through Monday, we've got bands of rain moving in across parts of Scotland. In the west in particular could turn heavy at times, that going into northern parts of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, a largely dry day to come with some spells of sunshine, but the best chance of any sunshine is going to be on Wednesday, where higher pressure starts dominating. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to the Saturday Five. Thank you very much for getting in touch on gbnews.com/your say. Well, there's views coming in thick and fast. A. Morris says, Tony Blair stopped most apprenticeships so that students could be pushed into paying tuition fees. Then said, if we need workers, they come cheap from Eastern Europe. The white boys and men pushed aside is who is on the dole these days. NEETs, which is not in education...
Or economic...
Or training.
Training. But what's the other E?
Economically active. Something like that, anyway.
Training or S, sugar, created by Blair. Anyway, that's a good point. I agree with you. Jessica says, Darren, the problem is that new skilled migrants bring with them on average 3 dependents who then need to use our NHS, schools, etc. And many of them are on benefits as well, Jessica. True. So it's a real issue. And on the Pride, which we'll get to in a minute, Ali says anyone that agrees with these politically sexualised events for children should be put on a register. Okie dokie, thank you for your messages. Now, though, it is indeed time for this. Take it away, Will.
Thank you, Darren. It is the feud that we didn't know we needed. Hillbilly turned VP, JD Vance, against that sanctimonious, supercilious centrist dad podcaster, Rory Stewart. This all came up in Twitter in the last week, and it was delicious to watch. We have some of the tweets there. Basically, JD Vance put out a very common sense statement saying that you love your family first and you put them first, then your community, and then charity further afield. And Rory Stewart, in that smug way, just couldn't resist taking a bite and basically saying that this wasn't a Christian notion that JD Vance was proposing. He said it was more pagan tribal. I won't go through the rest other than to say that JD Vance completely schooled him on the history of Christianity when in this respect before a knockout line where he said to Rory Stewart, the problem with Rory and so many others is that he's a man with an IQ of 110 who thinks he's got an IQ of 130. And doesn't that just sum up the elites of this country? As JD said himself, that has been the attitudinal problem with so many people in the woke establishment in recent times. This was just great fun to watch. I really enjoyed it.
I did as well, actually. But what do you say to the criticism that the Vice President of the United States shouldn't have time to be getting involved in a scrap with Rory Stewart?
It would have taken 30 to 45 seconds, and I think the message that he's sending that we're no longer going to tolerate this sort of nonsense is well worth that time investment.
Me, they managed to sell out stadiums this previous podcast.
I do not get it.
These middle-class lefties are absolutely bizarre. They're on some form of crap. Not literally, don't sue me.
It's that sneering, isn't it? It's exactly what Starmer does. It's that sneering, looking at people that you're not as intelligent as us, you just don't know, be quiet, shut up, we know best.
All right, Renee, what have you got?
OK, so this week I saw an advert for Chester Playhouse. It was for Mini Pride, so a Pride celebration by a company called Curious Arts for 3 to 7-year-olds. Now, Curious Arts have some history. They move around the country and they do drag queen story time. They introduce drag shows to children, and now they'd like 3-year-olds to celebrate Pride. Well, frankly, I don't want a 3-year-old celebrating Pride. I just want a 3-year-old to learn about respect and accepting people for what they are. My 6-year-old wouldn't even understand Pride because she doesn't understand about gay sex, and that's fine at the moment. She can learn about that later. She just needs to know that people are people and you need to like them for who they are. Stop trying to sexualise our kids and bring sex into the conversation earlier than it needs to be.
Do you know what gets me is that there are certain things you can't talk about before the watershed through broadcasting regulation.
So children don't see it?
Yeah, so children don't see it. Yet you are allowed to talk about sexualised themes and topics.
Reminds me of...
How are these sexualised themes?
Pride.
Pride.
How do you explain what a trans person is without talking about sex?
It's nothing to do with...
It's sex and gender.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I really don't understand this sort of evangelical turn to the right by you and people like you who are anti-LGBT and anti-people...
I'm gay?
Frankly...
I don't know.
As am I, Darren. And I find it sickening that people like you who have been called slurs in the playground not that long ago can then turn around and not defend people who are even more marginal.
When I saw the latest...
Gay people just wanted to be left alone and left to be normal. We didn't want to tell three-year-olds about themes like this.
Do you know what it reminded me of, Darren? It reminded me of those scenes at Gay Pride where there are little children walking around with men who are practically in nothing.
Or in bondage.
Or in some sort of weird bondage.
OK,
yeah.
right.
Not right.
This amazed me, actually, because this story here, woke staff have left a surprise for Mark Zuckerberg in the Meta restrooms, which Meta owns Facebook. And the restrooms basically removed tampons from men's toilets. This comes as Mark Zuckerberg seeks to Zuckerberg up to President Donald J. Trump, quite rightly. And he's removed these tampons from men's toilets. But staff there, woke staff, have been restocking the men's bathrooms with these tampons in order to actually be inclusive and kind.
It's about time that someone stood up for men's rights. Good on these employees.
I mean, can someone on the panel tell me what a man does with a tampon?
Well, Kai actually brings his own in to the TV News bathroom. What do you do with them?
Don't answer that.
Don't answer the question.
No comment.
We're taken off air for good.
Alex, what have you got?
Yeah, well, Prince Andrew, he's having a great few years, isn't he, this bloke? Yeah, so, of course, there's been some more revelations about his emails to Jeffrey Epstein. And, recently, I think it was today, in the front pages, they said he wanted to play again soon with Jeffrey Epstein. Pretty sickening stuff. That's after, by the way, he told everyone he cut contact, so that was a load of rubbish. But a pub has also removed his portrait. Yes, a pub in central London called the Duke of York, portrait of Prince Andrew, and they have finally taken it down. So,
what were they doing?
What were they doing? So, I know, it's kind of my first thought as well. This is the final straw.
You know the problem with Prince Andrew? He has an IQ of 90 and thinks he's...
yeah.
You're not wrong.
And Kai?
I'm talking about the Greens.
Bristol Green collections.
Yes, Bristol, the first major British city to be run by the Greens, has come under criticism for two things. They are changing their black bin collections to be every 4 weeks and are being criticised for road closures here, there and everywhere across Bristol. Now, doesn't this just show that the Greens are a party that is not fit for government, not fit to do anything other than snipe from the sidelines and criticise Labour for actually getting on with the job?
In 2015, I lived in Brighton, and the bins were piling up.
At least they have bins. London haven't even bothered with those for the most part.
Well. All right, OK, and you're still paying through the nose.
Yep.
Right, still to come tonight.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do.
That's Kai's sister. We'll bring you some of the latest tantrums of the week next up. You're with the Saturday 5. We're live on GB News.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Jonathan, in London, we're hearing that there could be more posties from an Amazon point of view in order to limit or cut carbon emissions, but that they could put more people on foot delivering their parcels.
This is really interesting because more and more people now obviously are using Amazon and buying their shopping online or buying gifts online. And it's interesting that in London they're talking about putting their Amazon workers on foot. There are now parts of the country, I think Milton Keynes is one part of the country, where there's robots delivering parcels, or
Really?
you'll see these. Well, they call them robots. You'll see these little things sort of trundling down the street.
Yes.
Sort of
robots.
Yeah, I mean, technically they are a robot, but when I think of a robot, I think of a sort of
a humanoid robot.
Yeah, sort of humanoid thing, sort of you know, Lost in Space style robot. But actually, they're sort of, you know, little sort of carriages, little
droids,
boxes.
like
Yeah.
Star Wars droid type.
Well, they're not
things.
even that. They're like a little sort of, like a box on wheels, delivering parcels in places like Milton Keynes and other bits of the country. So I think this is just another example of how the world is changing. Online shopping is completely changing the way in which we all live our lives, the way things. The way
But
in
I
which
think
things are
Milton
delivered.
Keynes lends itself to something like that. This is a newly designed town.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
last,
Exactly,
in the
that's
last
why they're in
70
Milton
years.
Keynes,
And
yeah.
I really do think that a town like that really does lend itself towards a piece of tech like that. You know, when I think back, our postie in Gloucestershire is a guy called Dave. He's fantastic. Everyone knows who he is. But I'm not sure that he could be replaced by one of these little droid things.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel. I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Coming up from 8 p.m, it's Ask the Five. Send your questions in through gbnews.com/your say. Making clear it's an Ask the Five. Wendy's just written in and says, "Hey, Darren, you're funny. Have you thought about a career change?"
When Alex ousted
That's
you.
a backhanded compliment. But she did suggest headliners. Yeah. All right, folks, it's time for Triggered Tantrums. This week's best in huffing and puffing and blowing absolutely nothing down. If you thought toddlers or Kai were dramatic, same thing, just wait till you see this lot. Now, let's start with me. Here's a meltdown over some passport.
Hey, y'all. It's me again. I can't get a passport right now. And little fun fact for you, in case you didn't know either. For people with gender markers that do not match their appearance, or the gender marker X that are trying to go through United States borders right now, they're being stopped and they're being detained.
That's because the gender marker X doesn't exist. Absolute Fruit Loop.
Am I allowed to just say good? Can that be my only comment?
Not allowed back
Good that
into
they're being
America.
stopped.
This is one of those rights in inverted commas that trans people are supposedly getting ripped away from them.
But doesn't it just show how far the Democrats went off the Richter scale when actually they were allowing people to identify as X on their passport?
Shame on all of you for your lack of humanity.
I don't feel shame.
Just shame on all of you. Honestly, that's all I have to say on that. Yes.
Humanity means you can't get a passport, guys.
They can get a passport.
It's not funny. It's not funny.
They just have to say if they're a bloke.
It's not funny.
With biological reality.
Yeah, do you know why it's important that we have biological reality? Because actually, you cannot run a country, plan a healthcare system, if you don't know how many men and how many women you are. You know why? Because men and women have different diseases, need different screening, need different healthcare. It's actually really important that our census is correct, our passports are correct, and we can then plan everything else to run properly. Shame on you people that don't give a damn about that going forward. Shame on you.
Leslie says, "Is that a bloke?" Not you. No, I don't know if
Of course it's a bloke, because they never look like women, because you can't, because you've got a different bone structure. You've been bathed in testosterone for your life. I've yet to see a trans person who looks
Your transphobia is shining through. That is abhorrent.
Transphobia is a made-up word designed to shut down conversation, and you are not going to shut me down.
Good for you, Renee. Right, Alex, what have you got?
Oh, I've got a new anthem for you all today. You thought it couldn't get any worse, didn't you? But they've lost an election, but they've still got their chance. Have a look at this.
Black and Indigenous people of colour. Black and Indigenous people of colour. Lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, and queer. Lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, and queer. Asian American Pacific Islander. Asian American Pacific Islander. Latino, Hispanic, Romani, and Creole. Latino, Hispanic, Romani, and Creole. We all have a place in this world.
Well, I need a drink after listening to that.
Well, that's really funny, by the way.
They have a really lovely voice, and perhaps they should stop doing all this rubbish and go out and get...
Because do you know who they missed off on that long list of people? White people.
Of course.
No white people. You don't need to exist, white people.
Alex, you know one of the best things about this segment is now that you're slipping into Trump voice without even knowing it.
I think we should just deport her.
You're just giving him an excuse. You'll eventually just become Donald Trump, and I'm here for it.
We're doing mass deportations, and I think she should go.
He died like a dog.
He died like a dog. Beautiful dog.
Kai, that was actually... You have an exclusive for this channel because we can actually announce that that was your sister.
He's got quite a lot of sisters, hasn't he?
Sorry. Oh, God. Is it me next?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, let's show the clip, shall we?
I want to say that I'm so sorry. All my people are getting attacked. Children.
Seeing that video, it's hard to believe that it's actually genuine and real because she's an actress.
You don't know who you're crying for. What about our children who were brutally murdered and raped and beat to death and left on the floor by these illegal immigrants?
I just feel like it's a ruse to deceive people and to garner sympathy for lawlessness.
Well, Alex, before we get on to Selena Gomez, Bruce has just written in saying I had to mute the channel, so you not leaving that whole monologue by that woman.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So long.
It was, yeah.
Right, Kai, defend. This was, for those that don't know, this was Selena Gomez, who is a pop star and
the most followed person on Instagram.
Most followed person on Instagram, and she deleted this post after she was roundly ridiculed. And this comes, by the way, days after President Trump announces the Laken Riley Act. Now, for those that don't know, Laken Riley was murdered by an illegal migrant in the United States of America, and they have now announced border restrictions to enable their border security to stop this ever happening again. And Laken Riley's mother sobbed her heart out and said, President Trump is a man of his word. So I say shame on you, Selena Gomez, actually, because you are responsible for the whackery and wokery. That means that dangerous illegal migrants are allowed to run rampant.
I'm just going to add really quickly, she's also a multi-billionaire. So if she really wants to help them, why doesn't she pay for all their homes back home in their own countries?
No,
there you go, problem solved.
And the other point, and I actually, in this lefty tantrums item, actually, you know what? The left need to get better at making an argument rather than wringing their hands. And I am a paid-up member of the Labour Party, and I struggle with the fact that so many of us actually choose to complain about things rather than do things. And I think Selena Gomez fits into that category.
The thing is, Kai, they don't actually have an argument. That's why they have to do all this rubbish. And there's a very serious point made here. There is a story today in one of our national newspapers about Sweden, where a young child, I think she was about 9, was dragged into woods, raped and beaten by migrants, has been left disabled for life. We don't know who these young men are who despise women who are coming into our country. America don't know, but they now have a president who says, I don't want to know, they're just not going to come.
And it is a good point that Alex makes, because she has security, right? She doesn't need to worry about some illegal coming over the southern border and attacking them. So I think you're right that the left has just gone so totally nuts that actually they are so far removed from the concerns of everyday people. And you will keep losing for that very reason. So goodbye, Kai. Now, don't go anywhere, my friends, because coming up, it's the Saturday 5 Extra, where I actually finally get my hands on a little drink. And we're going to let our hair down. Anything can happen in this next hour. You'll die like a dog.
You die like a dog. I think we'll have a drink.
Beautiful dog.
A beautiful dog.
We're going to let our hair down and we're going to go get ready now. So come on,
Are we going to
guys.
have a drink? Are we going to have
We'll
a drink?
be back in just a moment. We're having a drink.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Come on, Donald.
So 5, let us move.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into Sunday, it's going to be a cold but bright start in the southeast of England, often cloudy elsewhere with some spells of rain in the west. Taking a look at the bigger picture then, we have higher pressure out towards the south and east, a squeeze in the ice bars across the northwest with this band of rain. So as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight, we have heavy spells of rain moving into Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, further towards England and Wales, a cloudy night to come here, but across the far southeast of England, clear skies, and that will allow temperatures to quickly fall to give a touch of frost in places to start Sunday morning. But across Scotland to start Sunday morning, it's actually going to be a pretty dreary day. We'll see outbreaks of rain, heaviest across the western half of Scotland to start the day, but temperatures still holding up at around 7 or 8 degrees. Across Northern Ireland, a similar picture here, cloudy with outbreaks of rain, and that continuing across parts of Wales and down towards the southwest of England. Best of the brightness come Sunday morning is across the southeast of England. Plenty of sunshine here compared to Saturday. Now, we do hold on to cloud and rain across parts of Scotland and northwest England, but it should generally start fizzling out as we go through the afternoon and turning much drier and brighter across Northern Ireland as we head into the afternoon on Sunday. As for temperatures, generally around average, but feeling pleasant enough where you catch any sunshine. Now, through Monday, we've got bands of rain moving in across parts of Scotland. In the west in particular could turn heavy at times, that going into northern parts of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, a largely dry day to come with some spells of sunshine, but the best chance of any sunshine is going to be on Wednesday, where higher pressure starts dominating. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Want to be one of 2 lucky Great British giveaway winners? That's right, you could win one of 2 prize bundles, which includes a brand new iPhone 16, £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store, and an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. What would you spend that cash on? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Saturday night, and this is the Saturday 5 Extra, where anything can happen, and often does. Chin chin. Now, alongside Will Kingston Renee, Dr. Renee that is, must give her a title, she worked damn hard for it, Alex Armstrong and Kai Wilshaw, who's never worked hard for anything. Plenty more to come tonight. We take your questions, and there are concerns in Germany that Elon Musk could drive far-right politics. Elon Musk's got more power than anyone else. He seems to be driving far-right politics absolutely everywhere, according to Kai. It's 8 p.m, my friends, and this is the Saturday 5. Yes, the Saturday 5 Extra, where we'll also bring you our highlights of the week in High 5. Christine's just written in, by the way, and she says the Saturday 5 is the best show on GB News. Christine, I have put your fiver in the post. Plus,
it was Donald J. Trump and Elon Musk and all of those evil people who have decided to just erase all of the work we've been doing for the last 15 years.
Yeah, that's Kai's brother. More tantrums. First of all, though, we're going to get you Saturday night news with Sophia Wensler.
Darren, thank you. It's just gone 8 o'clock. These are your headlines. Donald Trump has said many ISIS terrorists have been killed in caves by US airstrikes he ordered this morning. Posting on his social media site, Truth Social, the US president said this morning, I ordered precision military airstrikes on the senior ISIS attack planner and other terrorists he recruited and led in Somalia. These killers, who we found hiding in caves, threaten the United States and our allies. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will visit the White House next week in the first such visit of a foreign leader since President Donald Trump assumed office. It comes as Hamas and Israel exchanged hostages and prisoners today in the fourth swap of a fragile ceasefire in Gaza. In Tel Aviv, supporters clapped and threw their hands in the air as they watched the last of 3 hostages cross the border into Israel. Meanwhile, in exchange, 182 Palestinian prisoners are expected to have been freed, with some already taken in buses to Gaza and the West Bank. Staying in the US now, the mayor of Philadelphia has confirmed the driver of a car was also killed when a medical transport plane crashed in the city. All 6 on board were killed in the crash, including a young patient and her mother. At least 19 others were also injured after the jet rescue air ambulance erupted into a fireball just 30 seconds after takeoff, engulfing several homes in flames. An investigation is underway with officials from the National Transport Safety Board on the scene. It comes just days after a plane collided with a US Army helicopter near Washington, D.C., killing 64 people on the plane and 3 on the helicopter. Meanwhile, the King has said he's profoundly shocked and saddened by the events, saying our hearts and our special thoughts are with the people of the United States. Back in the UK, 4 people died after a vehicle crashed into a building in Colchester. Essex police said the deaths were confirmed at the scene on Magdalen Street. The families of the victims have been informed and will be supported by specialist police officers. And angry crowds have gathered outside a Barclays branch as a major IT glitch is still causing thousands to be left without funds for more than 24 hours. Many have taken to social media to hit out at the firm and demand compensation for the problems, which leading experts have warned will cost the bank millions. This morning, the bank apologised to its customers, acknowledging intermittent errors with their payment system and assuring that they were working to fix this as quickly as possible. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to the Saturday 5.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Sophia. Now, what you won't be aware of is that Sophia Wensler just downed a pint in the interval of that break. Now, what a Ask the Five we've got coming up for you. But first of all, I have to read out what Tommy has just written in. And Tommy says, Kai said the left need to improve their argument. All right, Tommy concludes. However, Kai also said the usual by calling Dr. Renee a transphobe. You couldn't make it up. You know, they say one thing, they do completely the other.
Well, that's when you don't need an argument. You just shut it down by using those words.
Yeah, well, argument, that's a very generous interpretation of whatever bile he's just spouted from his mouth.
Can I make one thing clear? Dr. Renee, I have a huge respect for you. What I think I said, or what I meant to say, is that I think you were using lazy, transphobic arguments, but I don't mean to discredit you in any way.
Yes, you just smeared her.
No.
It's on television.
Did I not just apologise?
No, you can say sorry.
So what I mean...
I don't think you did apologise, actually.
No. Say sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's the first for GB News.
But we'll continue to have these arguments and debates, won't we?
It's time for this. Now, our first question is from a man called David, and that's what my dad's called, and I hope it's not him.
Hi, I'd like to ask the panel, do they believe that Labour will be able to commence and complete any of their grandiose growth projects before the next election? Or do you think that everything that they've done, it will be all hot air and actually nothing will happen and they will blame everybody for delays, etc.?
Well,
the short answer is no, because the only way they can think of growth is through big public infrastructure projects which aren't going to be finished until the mid-30s. The quicker way to find growth is through lower spending, lower regulation and lower taxes, and that's all anathema to the Labor government.
Trump.
I think it's a really good question because of exactly that. Lots of the growth initiatives that have been launched so far are super long-term. You look at Heathrow. The earliest we'll see a third runway is 2035, right? So they need to find these short-term, quick wins. And at the minute, it looks like they won't find those. And I think you'll see new Labour MPs who are worried about keeping their seat in the next election actually causing some disturbance in the ranks if you don't see movement in the next year and a half or so.
I mean, we've seen the likes of AstraZeneca say they're not going to open their new facility in Britain. 450 million, I think it was.
I actually think AstraZeneca typifies what's wrong with government. So you've got AstraZeneca, a company worth £2 billion, who can't afford to fund their own factory in the UK. You know why? Because they know we are no longer a manufacturing superpower, and the only way you can succeed here is with government grants, which is our money. The whole approach from Labour at the moment, and the Tories, to be fair, it's the uni party, is big government, big taxes, big spending.
And energy is at the heart of absolutely every decision made around these issues.
And those factories need a lot of energy, and even they're saying the net zero targets would kill that factory before it even got off the ground.
Every student of history will know that every economic growth step change of the last 200 years has been driven by dramatically cheaper energy. You are not going to get growth with high energy prices.
I'm going to be a broke man because Denise has just messaged in and she says, Darren, you make me laugh so much, you're brilliant. I love your show and I loved Christmas because you were on so much. Denise, I'm going to be very poor because that's another £5 in the pot.
Take note, GB News Power Brokers.
Yes, indeed. Right. What's the next question's from lovely Julie. What have you got, Julie?
Good evening, panel. So, my question for you, do you think the Labour government is anti the most vulnerable people in our society? First, we saw local housing allowance or housing benefit rates frozen, although we know that rents are increasing, affecting the most vulnerable in society. Then we saw employers' national insurance being increased, again, stopping those employers from actually employing people because they've got to pay more national insurance, affecting the most vulnerable in society. Rachel Reeves has also announced that she'll be investigating benefit fraud and taking away people's driving licences if they've been committing it, again, quite possibly hitting the most vulnerable in our society. And now she's looking at tackling the £65 billion spend on sickness benefits, forcing those who are off sick for long term to go back into work. Again, do you not think this is an attack on the most vulnerable in society? Thank you.
Well, I wonder where Julie's from, because that was the Angel of the North on a picture behind her there. But Julie, good question. I would argue that actually they're hitting those who they assume won't vote for them. Right?
Yeah, I think they have a very narrow definition of who are vulnerable.
Yeah.
And there's more than one group of vulnerable people in society, obviously. And I think you're right. They've decided that the vulnerable elderly, and there are plenty of those, won't vote for them, so it doesn't matter. But the
Renee,
vulnerable farmers
fact of the matter is, no one's going to vote for them. So
Well, I'd also say that they don't mind vulnerable people abroad. David Lammy says, don't forget Sudan. We're going to send that money to the Sudan.
He's dead.
He could be coming back, I think, actually.
He died like a dog.
He died like a dog. A beautiful dog. But I think they do care about vulnerable people, just not vulnerable people in this country.
I think these are the policies that really infuriate people the most. Chagos, net zero and the foreign aid stuff, because it's so obvious that they do not help British people.
Yes.
They only either help, some sort of globalist conception of, international rule-based order or other countries.
Exactly.
That's the stuff that hurts.
One of our viewers, Kai, says the more money saved off of the backs of the elderly and the vulnerable is more money for the asylum seekers that they keep allowing into the country.
That is just factually inaccurate. You look at the triple lock pensions, for instance, in this country. If we keep going with the triple lock, in, I think, 5 years, that becomes economically unviable. The idea that we are that we're not looking after the likes of pensioners, the likes of vulnerable people in society, is ridiculous. The Labour government has put in new protections for those people, is looking after those people while being actually quite sensible about what we need to do.
You've only got to ask a pensioner what they think about the Labour government.
Well, speaking of a pensioner, an 87-year-old, Diana, has got in touch. She's in Southampton. Good evening, Diana. And she watches the Saturday 5 every week.
Well, thank you, Diana.
Thanks, Diana.
And she loves it. She's not online, so she sent it via her son. You think someone like Diana, who's presumably worked all her life for all the rest of it, should be attacked the hardest and bear the biggest brunt of this Labour administration?
I don't, but we also need to look at the dire situation that young people in this country are facing, who are disproportionately not getting into relationships because they can't get houses, they're not finding jobs.
That's not the pensioners' fault, Kai.
I never said it was pensioners' fault. What I'm saying is we have to spread the difficulty across generations in this society.
And why should they suffer for bad political decisions made today? They've worked their whole lives for their pensions.
Why should young people suffer?
Young people are suffering because of, unfortunately, 14 years and further Blairite mismanagement.
14 years of Blairite mismanagement?
No, before that, I said before that. I said 14 years of Tory and then Blairite before that. But the reality is that pensioners have still worked. Why should they have to suffer?
Right, let's get our third question in from Alan.
Good afternoon, folks. Given the gross level of political and economic incompetence that's been shown by the current Labour administration, do you think that this will force them into an early general election?
Alan, did it sound like Alan had an Ulster accent?
Oh, I don't know. I was focusing on Alan's question.
Sounded like a Scot.
I heard Ulster. Alan, let me know, please, where you're from.
I mean, the answer to this question is sadly not, because there is no mechanism for an early general election. I think many, many people will want it. I think we're going to have a terrible 4 years that remains, and Labour will feel terrible as they go through it. But they'll just hang on.
No, this Labour government is like a cockroach. Even a nuclear bomb wouldn't get it out of them.
I think again, I think we are right. Unfortunately, what we need to be talking about is term limits now. 5 years is obviously too long for a government, particularly a really bad one. I think 3 years, which Australia has, for example, is too short. I think 4 is the sweet spot.
That's roughly what we do, but I do think if we're talking about a general election, I think you're right, that's not going to happen. I do think we'll see a change of leader, though.
Yes.
I think Keir Starmer is finished. I don't see how he can recover from this with all the stuff that's going on. I'm sure there'll be more coming as well.
You say that, but the Labour Party just doesn't do that.
Yeah, but they won't want to lose an election when they can see that they're 50% below Reform and Tories
here's
together.
The thing, it's one thing to change perceptions about policy as a political party, but changing perceptions about personality is incredibly difficult, I think they're set in amongst the British public.
All right, we've got this in from Jonathan. Hopefully not Nick.
The question from Cornwall is, does President Trump come across as being more honest by just saying what he thinks caused the accident rather than saying what everyone normally says, which is we can't comment until we have the results of the investigation?
Wait, that's a beautiful backdrop. I wonder where Jonathan was.
Cornwall. We need to start giving awards for the best backdrop of the week. There's last week as well.
Backdrop of the week.
Absolutely. We've got the best backdrop. Our backdrop is currently Sophia Wensler. We're winning.
Currently on her second pint.
Oh, yeah, she is. She's on. She's doing shots.
She's stolen mine because I don't have one. Can I jump in here, though? Because I haven't spoken yet properly. You know, a really good example.
I've heard nothing else.
A really good example of somebody who spoke honestly and candidly and spoke to what voters and people think is John Prescott.
I thought you were going to say Keir Starmer then. I was about to have a heart attack.
I wouldn't go that far. Look, this week, obviously, we saw John Prescott's funeral. He was like no other. He spoke truth to power. And actually, Donald Trump does the same thing. And that's why he has this appeal. He'll say things that other people don't. And I think we need more figureheads in politics who don't beat around the bush and just say things how they are.
Unfortunately, John Prescott was never Prime Minister, which is the person that makes all the decisions. So it was Blair, who he reported to, which he stuck up for quite a long time. The difference is Donald Trump will just say it as he sees it. Right? If he's asked the question, are you going to go to the crash site, for example? He says, what, am I going to go look at the water? Even whether you don't like it, you know where you stand. And Thatcher was similar for this as well.
Rupert Lowe.
Exactly,
and
great man.
That's why people like Rupert Lowe.
Farage said it for a long time,
Do you know how much money the taxpayer is footing for Rupert Lowe's written questions?
Oh, for goodness
sake. 600
He's
plus
giving up
written
his salary.
questions.
He's giving up his salary.
He's giving up his salary, so that's plugging.
It's up to £600,000 for frivolous questions.
Oh, well,
to
don't
Parliament.
worry. You've
What a joke. What a joke.
Right, shush. Good point. Right, the final question is in from Morris on Your Say, and Morris says, are the other parties running scared and not allowing local elections in May? Look, Morris, I think yes, because they say, look, we're waiting for these unitary authorities to be created. That's an expansion of the size of councils that they say plugs gaps in social care funding and other things. But what do we do if in a year's time they still haven't got these authorities together? Do we just continue to deny democracy because the Labour Party knows they're going to get their bottoms handed to them at the ballot box? Pull the other one. This is denying democracy. Well, them as well. A plague on both their houses.
So the answer is yes, and neither one of the parties is shouting about this. The Tories are staying stum. Same reason.
Well, Reform Aren't they had a party political broadcast on this very issue. OK, we've got to go to a very exciting part of the show because, and by the way, if you want to ask the Five with a video message, please email gbviews@gbnews.uk and our producers will be in touch with you. That's very exciting.
They were crackers
Please
today
do
as well.
That, yes, because I love you getting in touch. Now, we're giving you two chances to win in our latest Great British giveaway, as we have these two amazing prize bundles to be won. Here's all the details that you need.
The Great British Giveaway is officially 1 year old, and we have a birthday treat for you. We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up with the guest who is a mystery even to me, my friend. A new poll has revealed that the Alternative for Deutschland's chances of taking power in Germany have significantly increased. It, of course, comes after a spate of migrant attacks and all of horrible migrant attacks, by the way. And is this because of the effect of Elon Musk as well? He spoke at their conference. Let's find out. This is the Saturday with an exclusive guest. This is the Saturday 5 Extra live on GB News.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
We've got the Daily Mail now with the latest in the court case over whether a man is a woman or a man. It's a tough question, and J.K. Rowling has given her opinion. I think I can guess what it is, Cressida.
Explosive twist in Australia's What is a Woman trans battle as Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling gets involved. So this is the court case Giggle versus Tickle. Tickle was a...
He's Mr. Men.
That's right. It's a Mr. Men trans battle.
Kind of is a Mr. Man.
It was a women's group, wasn't it? Tickle, Giggles... Oh, I get it wrong. Giggles for girls. And Roxy Tickle, who is a trans woman, wanted to join this group and wasn't allowed, was banned for being a biological male, and then sued and amazingly got $10,000 for this, which is already extraordinary to me.
Yeah.
But it's now doubling down and is going to file a cross appeal seeking to upgrade the judgment.
Yeah.
So Roxy has come back for another bite of the cherry.
And I've had a look at this Roxanne Tickle, the trans woman.
Pretty?
No, not one of the pretty ones. Not a Blair White. Just looks like, to be honest, it looks like
you could be sued for $10,000.
Looks like one of us.
Yeah.
To be honest, no. Like I mean, I'll happily.
For yourself.
No, I think it's an absolute. It's a farce, and it's making a mockery of not just. It's not just making a mockery of women's right to have their own spaces. It's making a mockery of genuine trans people who actually put some effort in and look like a woman.
What do you mean a genuine trans
And also,
people?
if
We don't believe in that.
If your name was Roxanne, if you were going to transition, you wouldn't pick the name Roxanne Tickle.
What?
You choose Tess.
You Tess. That's a kind of name. No, the truth is that's one of the problems, is you get a choice in the name you're going to choose. And of course, you're going to choose like a hot Roxanne. That's a hot Roxanne. That's a great name. They're not going to choose.
You don't think
Louis.
Tess would work better with Tickle?
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
A very warm welcome back to the Saturday 5 Crazy, I mean extra. Now, a new poll in Germany reveals growing concerns that Elon Musk's influence could help propel the far-right Alternative for Deutschland to power. Now, they're not my words, by the way. The survey shows AfD, led by Alice Weidel.
Good name.
Is it Weidel or Weidel? How
Be
do I say
Weidel.
it?
Be Weidel, yeah.
Now just 2 points behind the Christian Democrats, with Weidel emerging as the top choice for Chancellor. Can you believe it? Musk's recent comments, he spoke virtually at an AfD rally, downplaying Germany's historic guilt, apparently, have sparked outrage, while 28% of Germans say they're now more likely to vote AfD because of Musk. That's quite extraordinary. Concerns about the mounting rise of the far right in the country just weeks ahead of set elections for February 23rd. Joining us to discuss this is the journalist Paul Brandenburg. Paul, where are you based, my friend? Are you in Deutschland?
No, I left Deutschland actually in March of last year. I exiled myself because as a dissident I was politically prosecuted. So now I'm based near Zurich in Switzerland.
Ah, and do you worry about the rise of the so-called far right in your homeland?
Well, actually, not at all. Thanks for having me at first, of course. The far right, or this framing of the AfD, Alternative für Deutschland, as far right, is actually a narrative that has been spread by the reigning parties, the Social Democrats and the Christian Conservatives, ever since the AfD was founded in 2013. And over the last years, with the rise of voter support, the governments of the Federal Republic and of the Bundesländer come forward constantly saying that they have gathered intelligence information by the domestic intelligence services that proving that the Alternative für Deutschland is far right, a right-wing extremist. But whenever they are asked to present this evidence or these proof, they say that this can't be done because they have to keep it secret until they finally go to court to actually outlaw the party. And that is what they have now just recently, 1 day ago, tried to vote on in Parliament, outlawing the AfD just prior to the election. So it is said to be far right, a right extremist party, but we still lack the proof that the government claims to have.
Yeah, Paul, is it not somewhat ironic that those who purport to be anti the far right are trying to ban a democratically elected party from actually winning votes in a free and open and fair election, a bit like, I don't know, someone did in the past, in the 1930s. I forget his name, but you know the one.
Yeah, well, I do think I know what you mean, and yes, but you have to see those are Germans we're talking about there. They very much like to cling to what their government tells them. It's sad that I have to say it, for I'm German too, but we have this effect that ever since this party just appeared in 2013, that was due to heavy criticism of the euro currency and reforms needed in the European Union. So that was actually the reason the AfD was founded. Ever since it appeared and voted for or pushed for reforms, it was called far right or extremist. People said it was promoting Nazi ideology. And to be fair there, yes, of course, there are some episodes of some members of the Alternative für Deutschland that obviously have a very strange historical perception of the Nazis, a very positive, but, and that is a very, very big one, you have to consider, we have these episodes or these people in all the other parties too. If you look at the history of the CDU especially, or even of the Green Party, which is rather young, we have heavy ties to former Nazis there. Yeah. So yes, there are some people, some leftovers in Germany of that Nazi ideology, which is sad to say, but there is no proof, and even there's no reason actually, if you look at the AfD program that they're promoting, reason to find any, or to no possibility to find any connection to this ideology. What the actually calls for is a closure of the borders. So the absolute opposite of what the ruling parties have been doing
Common
ever
sense
since
energy
2015.
policy.
Sorry?
Common sense energy policy as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. They're calling for a nuclear energy, to continue the nuclear energy, the reverse of the so-called Energiewende. That's the German word for just destroying your complete energy infrastructure, shutting off gas imports from Russia, shutting down nuclear power plants. So it's actually common sense energy policy.
Will you get a vote? Will you be actually able to vote from Zurich?
I could go to the local embassy and get my voting papers, but if I do that, I actually fear that at the moment the government has my new address, that things will continue that I've been experiencing for the last years. There are 70 criminal cases against me at the moment, all based on 188 of the German criminal code. That is insulting political figures.
That is the most authoritarian thing.
We would all be in jail, by the way, if this was the UK.
I'm a dead man.
It's probably coming here very soon.
Will, on that point about Elon Musk's influence, should we be worried about the rise of rich people in politics?
Well, that implies that there's been a rise recently, and that's not the case. There's always been rich people in politics. It's just for the first time in a while, there are rich people who are prominently talking out on right-leaning issues. We've always had the Soroses, we've always had the Gates, we've always had the Bezoses. It's just now it is a right-wing person that the leftist establishment is taking issue with.
And they're doing it transparently.
Paul, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. If you look at Bill Gates especially, he's financing a left-wing German newspaper or a news magazine called Der Spiegel with millions of US dollars. And this kind of influence is regarded as his freedom, his liberty to do so. It is accepted not only by German ruling parties, they actually applaud him for that. But the moment Elon Musk invites Alice Weidel to a talk on X, that is foreign influence that must be fought. So yes, it depends on which side you're on.
Yes, I want to put a question to Kai, because Paul says there that there are some a fringe of the AFD which are horrible, right? Who would basically say, that Nazism had its positives, right? But I know for a fact that within the Labour movement, especially under Jeremy Corbyn, there were far too many people that had really pretty horrible views on Jews. So you can't tarnish an entire political movement by the views of a minority fringe.
No, but you can look at the response from a party and judge the party based on that. And look what the Labour Party did after the Corbyn years. They purged all the anti-Semites out of the party. It's changed completely. We've had a reset. So actually, I don't accept that at all. And the problem we have with far-right parties often is they try to disavow these extremists, so-called extremists, when actually it's more of a mainstream view in the membership than they think.
Well, Paul, let me put that question to you, please. Have the AFD done enough to get rid of these extreme fringes?
Well, that, of course, depends on your personal standpoint. But I totally agree with what your colleague just said. If you look at what the party actually does, there's a very strong Jewish caucus within the AfD. AfD is very open about anti-Semitism in Germany, which is, for a fact, at the moment, an Islamic problem. We have anti-Semitism on the street, and that stems to 90% from Islamic so-called migrants. And the AfD is very verbal about that, urging for law measures against that. And we have a lot of Jewish groups openly supporting the AfD. So yeah, if you judge them on what they do and what they actually take action on, they are absolutely fighting anti-Semitism.
Renee, I listened to the AfD did and Paul, you will have seen this. They did Weidel did an interview with Bloomberg, and you think, wow. So I obviously clicked on it quick as a flash because I thought, wow, Bloomberg have interviewed the AfD. And I listened to what was described as a conservative libertarian party. I listened to Common Sense on Energy Policy after complete madness that has decimated, by the way, German industry. Once a powerhouse of the world, now looks like a timid little mouse on the global landscape. Energy policy, border security, all of these things, I thought, well, this just sounds like common sense to me. Am I a fascist or something? Am I these days? Is that what it is?
In German standards, you
Paul,
are.
You're not supposed to say yes.
So, Paul, can I ask you? Hi, I'm Renee. Paul, Alice Weidel is 2 points below the main party now, which is obviously within the margin of error. If you had to predict the election, do you think they're going to do it?
No. Sorry to say no, because in Germany you don't vote the chancellor, you only vote a party. And there always have been these polls on who would you vote for as a chancellor, and results from the actual party results are quite different often. Like, for instance, the ruling chancellor right now, Olaf Scholz, he is extremely unpopular, but his party still has an astonishing poll. So if Germans could vote for her directly, she would have a real chance. But at the moment, it looks like like the AfD will end up at something around 23%, which is close behind the CDU, the Christian Democrats, like Angela Merkel's former party with Friedrich Merz. But they took a heavy blow one day ago in Parliament. So at the moment, it could happen that the AfD actually catches up, but the chances that they actually are on and will end up on first place are very, very low, actually.
Okay. All right, Paul, thank you very much for that. I enjoyed that.
Thank you, Paul.
Good analysis there from Paul Brandenburg in Zurich. Now, coming up, we've got more triggered tantrums, and it was the anniversary of Brexit this week. I'll be looking back at my journey of the departure of the European Union. For those that have known me for a wee while, it was a tumultuous one, shall we say. This is Day 5. Don't go anywhere, anything can happen.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There's some pretty unsettled weather in central parts of the Mediterranean this weekend. Strong winds to go along with the heavy rain. Also a band of rain sweeping across parts of Spain, Portugal and into France as we go through tomorrow. Even some hill snow mixed in with this. But it's in the central Med where we have the heaviest rain, the strongest winds affecting parts of Italy, Greece, even the north of Africa as well. But as we go into next week, there will be a lot of dry and often sunny weather around. See you later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into Sunday, it's going to be a cold but bright start in the southeast of England, often cloudy elsewhere with some spells of rain in the west. Taking a look at the bigger picture, then we have higher pressure out towards the south and east, a squeeze in the ice bars across the northwest with this band of rain. So as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight, we have heavy spells of rain moving into Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, further towards England and Wales, a cloudy night to come here, but across the far southeast of England, clear skies, and that will allow temperatures to quickly fall to give a touch of frost in places to start Sunday morning. But across Scotland to start Sunday morning, it's actually going to be a pretty dreary day. We'll see outbreaks of rain, heaviest across the western half of Scotland to start the day, but temperatures still holding up at around 7 or 8 degrees. Across Northern Ireland, a similar picture here, cloudy with outbreaks of rain, and that continuing across parts of Wales and down towards the southwest of England. Best of the brightness come Sunday morning is across the southeast of England. Plenty of sunshine here compared to Saturday. Now, we do hold on to cloud and rain across parts of Scotland and northwest England, but it should generally start fizzling out as we go through the afternoon and turning much drier and brighter across Northern Ireland as we head into the afternoon on Sunday. As for temperatures, generally around average, but feeling pleasant enough where you catch any sunshine. Now, through Monday, we've got bands of rain moving in across parts of Scotland. In the west in particular could turn heavy at times, that going into northern parts of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, a largely dry day to come with some spells of sunshine, but the best chance of any sunshine is going to be on Wednesday, where higher pressure starts dominating. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.
Headliners on GB News 11 PM every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 PM and 5 AM as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Well, welcome back to the show. It's now time for a very unexpected welcome back to the show. It's now time for High Five, where we discuss our favourite moments from the week. Will.
So I know this segment is meant to be about, dogs rescuing kids from rivers or kind of firefighters bravely going into burning buildings, uplifting stuff. I scoured the papers. I could not find a single feel-good story. So I went for something that makes me feel good, and that is getting prisoners back to work.
Now, before you go on, does everyone at home remember who Larry Grayson is when he says, shut that door? Well, that's what I'm about to say. Shut that door. There's a terrible draft. Now, Will, sorry, I interrupted.
I think I was saying something along the lines of getting prisoners back to work.
Getting prisoners back to work.
President Bukele has implemented an initiative where he's saying that every prisoner except rapists and murderers can be put to work in Salvadorian prisons. They'll have their short sentence reduced. They're being productive, probably for the first time in their lives. What a great, heart-warming story.
Yeah.
It tickled the cockles of my... what is the end of the expression?
I don't want to know about cockles, thank you very much.
Well, look at that. If that doesn't make you feel good on a Saturday night, I really don't know what does.
Men sewing. Yeah.
Men sewing, contributing to the economy, finding a sense of purpose.
So what are they sewing? Is it...
I didn't go to the detail of working out exactly what products they're creating, Darren, but I'm sure that they're of the utmost, the highest quality. They are to be sold.
Good work.
Contributing to the economy.
I like it. Well done.
Yeah,
I'll try and find a dog story next week.
As well.
It does. When you see those images, you just think, what is happening in our justice system? You know, look how many rows of men there were. Yeah, they're all PlayStations getting drugs delivered in through drones.
It's not a story for now, but the way that he's cut down crime in that country is
Man's incredible.
All right, Renee's got something a little bit slightly less
This is for the women
serious.
out there, and I know if it were the other way around, there would be a lot of criticism, that we shouldn't be ogling women, but we're about to ogle a beautiful body. This week, David Beckham launched a new...
Not what you're expecting there.
I thought you were going to say nude.
Willie's gone soft.
I leant in a bit quickly there.
What can I look at this guy? Perfection.
I think...
My high five, it made me feel good.
How old is he now? He's still in good shape, isn't he?
Yeah.
Does that make you want to buy the knickers?
Possibly.
I don't mean his, to be clear. The brand. Other brands are available, by the way.
I'm still watching the advert.
It's always the wives and girlfriends who end up buying the knickers for the husband or boyfriend.
Does anyone see this as what do they call it?
Objectifying.
Objectification.
Yes. No, I know you want me to say that, but no, I've been watching the screen all the while.
I'll say this, right?
Whenever we see a woman showing her nick,
Darren,
you can't be a hypocrite.
Darren, you objectify me on this show every week. It's become...
I hate to break it to you, but you don't look like David Beckham. Right, I want to look back over the last 5 years. It's, I was going to say things have got better, but they ain't. Brexit happened 5 years ago. Boris Johnson knocked on a gong in number 10 Downing Street and announced that Britain has indeed left the European Union. Article 50 had been invoked and we were out. I think we've got some pictures here of me back in 2016. There's me knocking on doors.
What were those glasses?
Yes, glasses. And me winning my campaign against the Electoral Commission in court after very generous crowdfunding from some of you who still watch GB News, which is brilliant. So it's been one hell of a 5 years. I think, for the most part, we are out constitutionally of the EU. No longer do these unaccountable, unelected, removed bureaucrats have a say over lawmaking in this country. Has it gone far enough? No, it hasn't. The borders thing is still a massive, massive betrayal. But ultimately, there is no way in a heartbeat I would vote to leave every single day of the week. Every day for the rest of my life, if I had to. I really would.
Am I allowed to say that you look like you're campaigning for the Green Party there?
In a red jumper.
But just the look.
Yeah, I was going to say your awkward teenage years extended out to your mid-20s.
Yeah, thankfully... I was in my mid-20s.
18, 20...
I was in my early 20s, thank you very much.
Cheerfully withdrawn.
It's good to see the hairline stayed as well.
Yeah.
It hasn't gone back that much further.
No.
Unlike Brexit.
Yeah. And you've discovered fake tan.
We did say anything happens this hour, didn't we? I think let's try and embody that in the show somehow.
All right, Alex, what have you got?
Yes, so what have I got? I've got an air traffic controller who was sacked for his job. Well, supposedly didn't get a job because of DEI in America. Now, obviously, having the recent crashes, 2 crashes in a week, it raises a lot of questions as to who is working in those jobs. And thankfully, the good news, everybody, the good news is that Donald Trump has sacked them all. He's stopped all of this nonsense and he's brought back common sense. And when we look at the UK, what's sort of despairing, really, is that we are now the capital of DEI in the world. So I think it's very refreshing to see someone like Donald Trump get in and bring some common sense back.
I must say, though, just to play devil's advocate, to those that said he was far too fast to come out and blame it on diversity.
No, I think he was right. Go ahead, Brennan.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think maybe he was too fast to come out because we don't know yet and we will see. However, I do think it's interesting. I was telling you in the break, Alex, that I watched a Matt Walsh podcast about this where he compared where DEI was introduced into air traffic control departments, I think it was 2019, and how many near misses there have been in American airspace.
Yep.
And it's just gone up like this. We need the best people for these jobs because it's people's lives.
There were even
hands.
people that were mentally...
unwell.
I'm looking for mentally
incapable?
No.
Or unwell?
Deficient,
maybe, who were being given these jobs because of the DEI in the FAA, which
That's
is
right.
the regulator that regulates airspace. That's mad.
Yeah, we can't do this.
There's that great Douglas Murray line. We'll think that this DEI stuff is a bit of a joke, and then the bridges will start falling down.
Exactly.
All right, my friends, we'll leave that one there. Up next, though, it's this.
Called me a privileged white man.
You cannot be racist to white people because white people are the dominant race in this country. Full stop.
Yes, it's for our final Triggered Tantrums. This is the Saturday 5 Extra. Don't go anywhere.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Newly released MI5 files reveal that Queen Elizabeth II was kept in the dark over the treachery of a senior courtier.
Yeah, for almost a decade. This is Sir Anthony Blunt, who played a double life, passing intelligence, the KGB, during World War II as a senior MI5 officer. But, remarkably, he was allowed to keep his position amid fears of a major scandal if the truth came out.
Well, now those files have been released by the National Archives, which includes the Queen's response to finding out a trusted member like Anthony Blunt was really a traitor.
Well, joining us now in the studio is GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker. Good to see you this morning, Cameron. This is astonishing.
Oh, absolutely. And this wasn't a little spy. This was Anthony Blunt was a full-blown spy. He passed to the Soviets the D-Day deception plans but during the Second World War. He was working for MI5 but a double agent for the KGB as well.
The wrong plans.
He passed on the plans.
The wrong ones.
The wrong one in 1944. Yeah. Exactly. But he then got a job inside Buckingham Palace as one of the Queen's most trusted aides and courtiers, the surveyor of her art, essentially like kind of an art advisor for her late Majesty. There was always suspicions about Anthony Blunt way back in the early 50s because he was part of this notorious Cambridge spy ring, a group of 5 boys recruited at Cambridge. 2 of these people fled to Moscow in 1951. Anthony stayed behind in London and subsequently got a job inside Buckingham Palace, and it wasn't until 1964 that he confessed to his treachery. The reason he confessed was because he was granted immunity.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Five. What you lovely viewers won't know at home is that when I said anything goes, I meant it. Anything goes. I lost communication with my lovely director, and the last part I did all by myself.
You did?
Oh,
look at you.
Very well, actually.
Yeah.
So the director's sacked. That's the moral of that story.
Particularly as you're the only one who has an auto queue on this show. We all have to actually work hard, and you just have to read all day.
All right. folks.
You cut him off quick.
It's time for the latest instalment of Will's Fire. Off-triggered tantrums. This week's best in huffing, puffing and blowing absolutely nothing down. If you thought toddlers were dramatic, just wait till you see Kai. I mean, this lot. What have we got, Renee?
OK, so we've got an activist in America getting very, very upset about the colour of his skin. He doesn't like his own skin colour. He is. Shall we see him?
Legal immigration is a farce.
What do you call it? What do you call it? Undocumented?
Government. It's an imaginary line.
I dare you to cross the Canada-United States line.
White man. How dare you? How dare you?
That was kind of
I'm
racist.
A privileged white man too. But you know what I'm
you
doing?
You just called me a privileged white man.
You cannot be racist to white people because white people are the dominant race in this country. Full stop.
You were calling me privileged when you don't know anything about me. I could have grown up in Section 8 housing.
This is privilege.
Okay, all right. Tell me this. Tell me this. Tell me this. Tell me this. Tell me this.
Privilege.
Renee, you're a GP. Is that psychosis?
Oh, it's just so ridiculous. That's what it is. And do you know what I think whenever I see these people is go to the poor white boys in this country and ask them how privileged they feel with their skin.
You know what? When I think about the men that were working down the pits and all these other jobs in America and here, who were risking life every single day they went down there, and you say their privilege was inherent because of their skin colour. Where was it obvious? Because I can't see any evidence of that. It's disgusting. It's racism. It's
but the thing is, they want our children to be indoctrinated with this so that they all grow up like them.
Like Kai.
Yeah.
Little Kais. They want little Kais running.
No, this is the big joke about what the big talk you people make about DEI. When actually in this country, rightly, DEI programmes include class. Because in this country we have a massive problem with the differences between working class and the wealthy. And actually, to deprive companies and the country of DEI programmes is to deprive the working class of programmes that will help.
So many of them don't have that.
That has not been the focus of DEI programmes the last 4 years.
Well, that just shows that you haven't actually engaged with any DEI programmes properly in the last few years.
Recently said that they were going to grade papers of black and minority ethnic students differently to white students. So you tell a white person that has got themselves up by their bootstraps to get into Oxford or Cambridge and actually get told that their paper will be marked differently and harder than someone else because of the colour of their skin. That's racist.
And actually, it's also ridiculous to say that just because someone's poor doesn't mean they're not intelligent enough to be able to pass exams and stuff like that. Plenty of. I was brought up in a poor family, and I would make my way perfectly fine.
That is just obviously not what it's saying. It's saying that there are structural disadvantages to working class people, as we all know, to get the right jobs in this country.
One of our viewers, who is a very popular columnist in this country, I won't name him in case he doesn't want to be named, but he said, why does Kai do this show? Is it masochism?
Well, it's definitely not for the beers.
Will, what have you got?
Well, as we've all agreed is a wonderful thing, Donald has decided to strip out DEI from government agencies. Donald, let us know why'd you do it? Your thoughts?
Well, I think we got to bring some common sense back to America, meritocracy, and maybe white people will get jobs again. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. Thank you, Donald.
We got to play with it.
We had the response to Donald's initiative here.
It was Donald J. Trump and Elon Musk and all of those evil people who have decided to just erase all of the work we've been doing for the last 15 years. BLM, the Pride movement, the diversity, equity, inclusion, movements, the anti-racism movements, the environmental movements, all of it gone for nothing. It just feels like every step forward we take, we've got to go a million steps back, and we're not getting anywhere. We are going backwards. What is the point in being a force for positive change?
It's got to be satire.
I do have to concede it may be satire.
Yeah,
I still wanted to include it because it's so perfectly highlighted how for these people it is all about them. It's all about me, how I have done something for the movement. It's not really for other people. It's all about me.
There's a show called Some Mothers Do Have 'Em.
That was a great show. They'd never allow it.
No, they wouldn't allow most things, Renee, these days. I mean, the fact of the matter is that that does highlight, you know, whether it's a joke or not, it highlights how fast the Trump regime, that makes them sound like a despot. You know what I mean?
It highlights how scared they are. They're terrified.
And I think they've got
So they're allowed to be terrified, but we're not.
But, and let's end on a note, this is, well, we were on high five, but on a note of hope, it goes to show how quickly government can enforce change if they've just got a bit of political courage. So there is hope for the UK after all.
I agree. I mean, do you think we'll ever get there, though?
Oh, I think we're a long way,
We're a
but
long
I
way
think
away.
this might help.
Yes.
No, I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there.
Do you?
Yeah.
More optimistic than me.
Well, I mean, a load of comments coming in about DEI, and one of our viewers says, DEI, time to die, and DEI stands for didn't earn it.
Yeah,
I think that's right. I think that's absolutely right. Thank you very much to our guests that we've had on the show tonight, being brilliant. And, of course, a very big thank you to you, our lovely audience, for joining in the fun tonight. Do get your views in. Remember, gbviews@gbnews.uk, and we'll pop you on next week. Next up, it's the brilliant Ben Leo. Never heard of him. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again, same time, next week.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Good stuff.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into Sunday, it's going to be a cold but bright start in the southeast of England, often cloudy elsewhere with some spells of rain in the west. Taking a look at the bigger picture, then we have higher pressure out towards the south and east, a squeeze in the ice bars across the northwest with this band of rain. So as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight, we have heavy spells of rain moving into Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, further towards England and Wales, a cloudy night to come here, but across the far southeast of England, clear skies, and that will allow temperatures to quickly fall to give a touch of frost in places to start Sunday morning. But across Scotland to start Sunday morning, it's actually going to be a pretty dreary day. We'll see outbreaks of rain, heaviest across the western half of Scotland to start the day, but temperatures still holding up at around 7 or 8 degrees. Across Northern Ireland, a similar picture here, cloudy with outbreaks of rain, and that continuing across parts of Wales and down towards the southwest of England. Best of the brightness come Sunday morning is across the southeast of England. Plenty of sunshine here compared to Saturday. Now, we do hold on to cloud and rain across parts of Scotland, northwest England, but it should generally start fizzling out as we go through the afternoon and turning much drier and brighter across Northern Ireland as we head into the afternoon on Sunday. As for temperatures, generally around average, but feeling pleasant enough where you catch any sunshine. Now, through Monday, we've got bands of rain moving in across parts of Scotland. In the west in particular could turn heavy at times, that going into northern parts of Northern Ireland as well. Elsewhere, a largely dry day to come with some spells of sunshine, but the best chance of any sunshine is going to be on Wednesday, where higher pressure starts dominating. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye for now.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For a chance to win an iPhone, vouchers and £10,000 in cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the